We'll be starting the meeting in just a moment as soon as all of our board members are here. And when we do, we'll start with the flag salute. I will then ask Mr. Slotnick Lastrico to continue with the performance, and then we'll continue with the rest of the meeting. Bring the meeting to session, and let's start with the flag salute. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Sarvis board members, very, very, very happy to be here. Thank you so much for having us. To the Jazz Choir, as you know, and combo. We'll be singing instruments. Thanks, JP. We'll be doing two numbers for you tonight that are kind of forward-looking towards our European Jazz Festival trip, which is a great just allows us to go on to several times in the past, and we'll do them again. We'll be doing Minuano for you, Perry Mark arrangement, and then Smack Jazz in the middle.
Can you pass this mic down, please? All the way down.
song that makes me so love you. A music magical. Reaching into the sky. Falling out of sight. Baby, this high is getting through. Willing to go as far as you want to. Always too far away. Let me catch up with you today. Maybe today will be all you. Love that love you. Go.
Thank you so much again. That was Menuano featuring Mr. Bill Sorensen, Miss Phoebe Light, Mr. Mason Kopakin, Mr. Mark Evans, Mr. Evan Bell. Who am I missing? And Mr. Robert Jones. We now have smack dab in the middle for you. Featuring Miss Courtney Anderson and Mr. Mason Kopakin.
Won't you throw me, jelly roll me, smack dab in the middle of it all. Come and find me, wine and dine me, and let me rock and roll to soothe my soul. Pick me a town in any part where people like a rockin' good time. Just stay awake all day and night. Everybody's feeling good right then throw me smack dab in the middle. Picture me smack dab in the middle. Sure, smack dab in the middle. And let me rock and roll and satisfy my soul.
I want a Cadillac, standard dummy mill. Taking suits and clothes just to kill. I want a tender house and some barbecue. And 50 chicks I know I'll take it to.
And throw me smack dab in the middle.
Shaka me,
Smack dab in the middle.
pull me, smack a dab in the middle now. And let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul.
I want a lot of bread and cakes and meat. Oodles of butter and something sweet.
With loads of cabbage just to wash it down.
Back on the nails on by the pound and throw me smack dab in the center. Child, I'm talking about the Holy Ghost tonight.
Just throw me smack dab in the middle now.
And let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul. I wanna satisfy my soul. Let me rock, let me roll, let me satisfy my soul. It's a kind of constitution that your mama forbade. Look out! I must not control the center of eternity. Take a look at the mess I'm in. It's a moral epidemic, they say. And the drummer sets our feet to flying from the well-being. Don't knock it if you never would ever could. Anyone, anywhere would be right to satisfy it. Just keep me rocking and reeling. We gotta be raising the ceiling.
Just keep the music playing on. We'll be singing all night.
I wanna be smack dab in the center. And let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul.
I want a swinging band and 100 fine ballet girls.
I spit this baby with a natural pearl.
Bring me a wagon sucks.
And all the other boys transform me.
Smack dab in the middle.
Punish me,
Smack dab in the middle.
shine me.
Smack dab in the middle.
Let me rock, let me roll, let me satisfy my soul. Smack dab in the middle, my friend. Right from the top, take it straight to the end. Smack dab in the middle.
Let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul.
Let me rock and roll to satisfy my soul. Let me rock and roll. My soul.
My soul.
My soul.
Smack dab
Let me rock and roll.
in the middle.
Smack dab.
To satisfy my soul.
Smack dab. Smack dab. Smack dab.
Students,
Hang tight. Hang tight just one second.
students, that was just marvelous.
Thank you.
Other board members may have some comments.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvis.
I've been swinging a long time, but never better than that.
Thank you, Dr. Noel. Thank you all so much for having us. It's our great pleasure.
Thank you. This is one of the joys of our meetings. We don't get to hear from our students that often, and this is really a treat. Thank you very much. We couldn't have started a meeting off better.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Happy holidays to you all.
Are there
Very good.
if there are before everybody before the students leave, I wonder if there are parents of these students in the audience. We would like to salute them as well. And also for Mr. Slotnick. Thank you. And Mr. Slotnick, thank you very much. We'd also like to acknowledge your hard work and your dedication. Thank you.
Well, folks, tonight's meeting is a little bit unusual in a number of ways. We have two new board members that we are going to swear in to start the meeting. As students are leaving, can I have Vivian Rodriguez come forward, please? Vivian? I don't see Vivian. Oh, there she is. Got lost in the crowd. We do have Spanish translation. Vivian?
Sí, buenas tardes y bienvenidos de parte de la Junta Directiva del Distrito Escolar de Santa Bárbara. Si hay alguien que necesite la ayuda de un intérprete, por favor levante la mano para darle un audífono. Gracias.
And we have headsets for hearing impaired. If you need headsets, please indicate to Dave Hetyoung, who's the gentleman at the door. And now, new board members, Kate Parker and Bob Noel, newly elected. Would you please rise? And you'll need your microphone. Sorry. Please. We could do that. Let's go over to the podium. Here. Oh, excellent. Very good. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me with your name. I
Bob Noel,
Kate Parker,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations to both of you. Well, since tonight is an organizational meeting, our first item of business is the election of officers, president and vice president. Pardon? No, not yet.
Dr. Sarvis, I'd like to be recognized for purposes of making a motion or a nomination.
Yes, go ahead.
I nominate Laura Malikoff to be president of the board.
I'll second.
I want to thank you, Dr. Noel, for your vote of support here. I've thought long and hard about this, and because of work obligations, I would love to have this position next year. So this time next year, if you do that again, I would appreciate it. I'd like to keep this seat, though, but I'd like it next year. I will make a nomination for Mrs. Harder.
I second that nomination. So you have withdrawn effectively. Okay.
So we have a motion and a second for Mrs. Harder as president. Any discussion on the part of the board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Mrs. Harder, you are the board president. Thank you very much. We will now have the ritual changing of the seats. So, Mrs. Cordero, we'll ask you to go down and join Kate Parker. Oh, we always get this, don't we?
At last, I'm in the center. At last.
Well, you'll have to move up one, yes.
I'll be in the center. I've been on one of the wings too long.
This is pretty unusual to have Bob Noel at the center of... Oh, are you just changing seats? Is that it? Okay. I sent her to the end.
For 8 years, it's gone all the way to the end.
Well, good. Ms. Harder, since you are suddenly the president, would you like to proceed with the meeting? The next item of business is selection of the vice president.
Nominations are open.
I would like to make a nomination, Madam President.
Absolutely.
I'd like to nominate Laura Malikoff to do that again, if she's willing to serve.
Second from Dr. Noel. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, so we have a vice president now. Appointment of representative to an alternate to elect members of the Santa Barbara County Committee on School District Organization. And there's a brief description that's underneath. Essentially, you do not serve on this committee, you help to select the members of this committee. And Priscilla Diamond from the Santa Barbara County Office of Education guides you through any work that you have to do. I served on this committee this past year, and it was a nominal effort at best. Very little work involved. Nominations? Anyone is welcome to self-nominate as well. Don't be bashful.
I self-nominate.
Okay, is there a second for that?
I've served once, so I know the job.
Okay, you know it intimately. Dr. Noel has nominated himself. Is there a second? Okay, thanks, Ms. Malikoff. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Dr. Noel it is.
I did not vote for myself.
Okay, thank you. Clerk and assistant clerk, this is dictated by law. It is our superintendent. I don't believe we need to take any action. Is that correct?
It's unanimous.
Designation of authorized signatories. Let me read through this.
Yes.
Designated are Brian Sarvis, Edward Diaz, Robert Wolf. Okay. Do we need to take action? Should we take a vote on it?
Yes, let's take a vote on this.
Okay. All those in favor of designating these authorized signatories, they're named at the bottom of the item, Brian Sarvis, Edward Diaz, Robert Wolf. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, who moved that?
Mrs. Cordero.
Nick Cordero.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Designation of date and time of regularly scheduled meetings. Right now, it's the second, fourth, and fifth Tuesday of the month, if a fifth Tuesday occurs in the month, with the exceptions noted below. The March 27th meeting conflicts with spring break. July 10th, we generally only have one meeting in July, and generally only one meeting in December, December 11th. Any other additions, changes?
Would we then cancel the March 27 meeting or seek to reschedule it?
I would suggest at that point, we generally, our business is
Decide.
pretty heavy at that point. I think we can schedule it that, when we get closer to that time. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So is there a motion to accept this calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So it is approved 5-0. Committee appointments. And these are, we have a number of committees. These are only the Brown Act committees that we need to tend to this evening. So it includes the Measure V Bond Oversight Committee, the Santa Barbara County School Boards Association, Santa Barbara Education Foundation, City of Santa Barbara Armory Committee, and the Gewurz Research Center Liaison. And I think it might be easier if people have preferences just to, let's begin with the first. Anybody have a preference for the Measure V Bond Oversight Committee?
Do you currently serve on that?
I do, and
You
I'm
serve?
happy to continue if nobody wants to take it on. Okay.
We're happy to let you.
Do we need to take a, shall we just take a vote on the grouping?
We can do that,
Okay,
yes.
great. Santa Barbara County School Boards Association. I'm currently the member who attends that meeting as well, and I'm happy to continue. They meet in Buellton at 8 in the morning, one Thursday a month, if that's any incentive for anybody to want to take it on. Okay. The Santa Barbara Education Foundation.
I currently serve on that, and I'd be willing to continue.
Excellent. City of Santa Barbara Armory Committee. Great. Gewurz Research Center Liaison.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay. And then, of course, we have, as I said, Elementary Advisory, Secondary Advisory, there are a number of other committees. Facilities Master Planning, but, yeah.
Yes.
They seem to multiply.
Can we have a
so-
board member move that then in a
Yes.
second so we can vote?
Absolutely. I think that's the end of the list.
Move
Will
to
someone make-
approve these appointments?
Is there a second? Okay, second from Ms. Malakoff. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving these appointments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay. I think we did our introductions, proclamations, presentations, and recognitions.
Well, no, we didn't.
Okay.
Not yet. Let's go next to,
There's nothing to report out from closed session.
good,
Acceptance of donations.
good.
Move to approve with appreciation?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, 5-0. And now Dr. Sarvis will present introductions, proclamations, presentations, and recognitions, and then go on to the superintendent's report as well.
Well, we did have a presentation from our talented Dos Pueblos students, but we do have another presentation tonight, and that's recognition of a former board member. How about that? Lynn Rodriguez. A parent of 2 students in our district and an active participant in our children's schools, Lynn Rodriguez has long demonstrated that she is a hardworking advocate for public education. Lynn, would you please come forward? She brought formidable energy to the board because she believes that high-quality education schools are important to a strong community. Let me just wait. Could you please just let them know?
I'm assuming that there will be some public comments from representatives in the audience. And if that's the case, that will come up in another couple of items. So if we could hold off, and obviously the group would be able to make some comments as well, similar to that. If we could just hold off for a sec. Thank you.
Thank you. During her tenure, Lynn has worked to increase family participation in the public education process, has advocated for more user-friendly fiscal reporting systems. You'll remember all these. Strong points from your tenure. Advocated for new ways of attracting and retaining students and their families, worked to raise expectations and close the achievement gap, sensitive to the needs of challenges of special education, she has worked to support inclusiveness in our schools. Thank you, Lynn, for your dedication and thoughtful approach to issues that face the board. Your leadership and voice in the discussion on a wide range of issues facing the districts has been both appreciated and invaluable. Of course, we thank Steve, Lynn's husband, and her daughters, Carly and Blair, for sharing their wife and their mother with us for the past 4 years. Lynn, would you please accept these tokens as appreciation of our gratitude? I've got one right behind you here. There we go.
Beautiful. An apple.
And one that I hid. How's that?
Thank you so much.
We may have comments from other board members.
I think Mrs. Cordero has the official presentation.
Well, yes. I just want to acknowledge on a personal level the support and welcome that you gave to me as a new board member. I could not have asked for a more welcoming member of the board to make me feel right at home and to help me learn the sort of the ins and outs of serving on the board. I think all of us can, I can speak on behalf of the entire board when I say that your intelligence, your dedication, and your grace will be sorely missed. And we have a small token of our appreciation for you.
I can't do this. I mean, I know that we have a big crowd of people, and I have a lot of personal comments that I would like to make to you, which we will do on our own time at lunch on Friday. And I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for the districts over the past 4 years. No one can ever know the kind of investment that a board member makes, but all of us know, and we deeply, deeply appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I will open these later and enjoy them and appreciate your comments. And thank you very much for arranging the Dos Pueblos Jazz Band to be here to send me off. That was wonderful. And for this big crowd of fine people here tonight. I prepared some comments for tonight. They shouldn't take more than about 20 minutes. I figure this will be the last time that I can speak for more than 3 minutes at the microphone. But seriously.
Maybe we should start the timer.
No. I've been honored and privileged to serve on this board for the past 4 years. It's been an incredible learning experience and a humbling one. I feel lucky that I was able to serve the needs of students and families in our district. Prior to serving on this board, It was hard to appreciate what goes into delivering high-quality education programs or understand the inner workings of a school district, the things not televised or reported by the media. Now that I've served on the board, I'm truly amazed at the tremendous accomplishments of our students and the way that our employees address the challenges they face every day. I'm also impressed by the level of involvement of many of our families and parents and members of the community. It truly takes a village to run a school district. Public education is under siege in our country and in our state. In California, we rank nearly last in the country for per pupil spending. We have one of the highest percentages of English learners in the state, and yet some of the least adequate resources to serve those students. We have some of the highest academic standards in the country, a particular challenge as we implement No Child Left Behind, and we face constant pressures for funding. And yet still, our students thrive and grow, thanks to the teachers. I'm not done. I mentioned you. During the 4 short years I served on the board, we have experienced severe budget constraints, defended ourselves against lawsuits, had a complete turnover of our administrative staff, hired a new superintendent, felt the challenges of meeting No Child Left Behind, and have seen housing costs escalate, causing a great burden to our employees. However, the highlight of these years has been witnessing the gains our students are making and celebrating their accomplishments, often by watching them perform and learning of their actions in this very room. It has been rewarding to help set policy to improve educational services, improve our revenues as much as possible, and guide the district's many activities. These past 4 years, we have been able to oversee the incredible facility improvements made on our campuses, thanks to the generosity of local voters and the availability of state bond funds. Despite accusations to the contrary, this district and board continue to maintain high standards, integrity, and a keen focus on doing what's right for our students. We have done this in spite of shrinking resources due to declining enrollment, increased healthcare, and rising utility costs. Our district enjoys one of the most diverse student bodies of any school district our size in California, with some of the highest achieving students, and continued improvement in the performance of our English learners and socioeconomically disadvantaged students, higher than the state average. We have much to be proud of, as well as more to do. I want to thank the teachers, the classified staff, the administrators, legal counsel, and consultants for their dedication to students, families, and the community, and for their hard work, long hours, and innovative thinking. I want to thank the students for their hard work and outstanding achievements that we are honored to celebrate in this room. I look forward to continuing my involvement with our schools as a parent and a community member. I have a new appreciation for the outstanding programs that our students receive. Some would say school board service is all about politics. I believe it is a higher calling, and our primary responsibility as board members is to focus on students. In fact, one of the items in the Code of Ethics for the board found in our current board policy states to strive step by step toward ideal conditions for most effective school board service to the community in a spirit of teamwork and devotion to public education as the greatest instrument for the preservation and perpetuation of our representative democracy. In the end, in my opinion, serving on the board is really about leadership, service, listening, problem solving, patience, attention to detail, building relationships, learning, remaining humble, trusting others, and ultimately a passion for serving our students. I want to thank my family who endured many hours of my absence while I served on the board. It would not have been possible without them, and they paid the price for my service. I'd like to end with a quote from Harry S. Truman. "It is amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who takes the credit. Every day I witness staff members and teachers in this district working hard to serve students without much, if any, accolades or public recognition. I appreciate what they do." Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Good luck to all of you as you continue to carry out the mission of the district. I have truly enjoyed working with all of you.
Thank you, Lynn, Steve, Carly, and Blair for coming tonight. Thank you, Blair. Good night. Good night, Lynn.
Well, that was our feature presentation tonight. Shall I continue with the superintendent's report?
Yes.
I have just a couple of items to report on. First, out of the board brief, generally on the second and fourth Friday of each month, my office issues a report to the board called the Board Brief. This is a collection of reports and articles on school and district matters. A copy is on display in the reception area or can be obtained through my office. In our last board brief, we included a report on the change in transfers to the Hope School District, and this is in follow-up to our discussion about the possibility of basic aid. Transfers to the Hope School District saw a drop of 57 students from last year to this year, leaving 176 transfers from our district still attending Hope schools in grades 1 through 6, and students did not go in kindergarten. And that's about 20 students per grade level. We also saw a report on the combined enrollment trends combining all 5 of the feeder school districts, Goleta, Hope, Montecito, Cold Spring, and Santa Barbara Elementary District. It shows a clear drop from year to year with a 2% decrease this last year, 2.5% the previous year, and 2% before that. This is not just a population bulge working its way through the grade levels. Rather, it's students leaving the community with 2%, about 2% as students go from kindergarten to first grade, from first grade to second grade, and so forth. By the way, the current trend in the population bulge is hitting at the 11th grade level. The 11th grade class is our largest class, and that's where the population bulge is. Recent news articles. We continue to see news articles on the district pursuing staff housing. I'm concerned that the general public does not know that we are considering a number of options and that workforce housing is just one of them. This will be discussed again at the end of January. It is reasonable to expect that the district should manage its resources and properties for the benefit of the district. Indeed, we would subject ourselves to criticism if we did not study what the properties could bring to the school districts. Our facilities tour. Last week's facilities tour of Measure V projects, the construction projects at the 3 high schools, was very informative. We are taking steps to conduct a spring tour for Goleta city officials for the projects in their area. And we'll be meeting with the city council and reviewing some of our projects with them in January. Goleta Teen of the Year. Last week, the Noon Rotary Club of Goleta selected Dos Pueblos High School senior Whitney Drake as the 2006 Goleta Teen of the Year. 5 of the 6 finalists are students in our secondary district. Our congratulations go out to Whitney, and I was there to congratulate her directly. Upcoming events, Santa Barbara High School, our instrumental music winter concert featuring the Santa Barbara High School Spring Ensemble and Jazz Ensembles will take place on Thursday. That's this Thursday, just 2 days from now. And their madrigals and a cappella choirs will sing this Friday at 7 p.m. in the lobby of the Doubletree Hotel. That's it for the superintendent's report tonight.
We're almost at public comment. We have a student board representative report tonight. I believe Megan Lorenzen from San Marcos is here. Thanks, Megan.
Okay, sorry, I'm a bit nervous here. Okay. Hi, I'm Megan Lorenzen, and I'm the Commissioner of Organizations at San Marcos High School. Right now, the leadership class is working on our 12th year of the Penny Drive. All the money we raise through the Penny Drive will be donated to the Unity Shop. The Unity Shop is one of the major charities in Santa Barbara that provides much-needed food, clothes, and other necessities to families who cannot afford them. Some of the leadership students participated in the annual KEYT telethon, which benefits the Unity Shop. At this time, San Marcos Penny Drive pledged $15,000 to the Unity Shop. As is right now, we are ahead of the pace and still have 2 days to go. The schools outside our school district that are participating are Monte Vista, Hope School, Vieja Valley, and San Roque. And the schools in our district that are participating are Monroe, McKinley, Santa Barbara Community Academy, and Localina Junior High and Santa Barbara Junior High. Another fundraiser San Marcos is doing to benefit the Unity Shop is Kids Helping Kids. This charity is a large gala event that will take place this Thursday night at Fest Parker's Doubletree from 6 to 9 p.m. There will be entertainment such as the San Marcos Madrigals and the San Marcos Jazz Band. There will be a live and silent auction to auction off trips, gift baskets, and many other items. This is a huge service learning project for Mr. DeVries' econ classes. We are hoping to raise close to $20,000 for the Unity Shop from this event. Everyone is invited to attend this event on Thursday and take part in the bidding. Kids Helping Kids and the Penny Drive are very important at San Marcos because it is giving all the students an opportunity to give back to the community. Just recently, San Marcos Marching Band won second in state and won the Santa Barbara High School Battle of the Bands. The fall play production of A Winter's Tale was a huge success, as well as the play The Twelfth Night, staged by our English language learners. Mr. Levian deserves a lot of credit for the success of The Twelfth Night. Coming up in winter sports and performing arts, we have one act put on by the advanced acting class in January, as well as the spring musical, The Wiz, in May. Tomorrow is the winter vocal concert at San Roque Church at 7 p.m. On Thursday, due to gym construction, our home wrestling match will be held on the stage in the auditorium. Also, because of construction, the girls' basketball games against Santa Barbara and Dos Pueblos will be held at UCSB. Thank you, and come support San Marcos in our upcoming events.
Megan, thank you. And please thank your fellow students at San Marcos for making sure that everyone in our community has a great holiday. And feel free to leave. I know you probably have homework to do. Correspondence.
Madam President.
Yes, sir.
The Brown Act requires that any communication between a board member and other board members become a public record. And I made such a communication in the past week, effectively informing my colleagues that maybe you recall or do not recall that I had been working on 3 different program initiatives at the high school level, and I informed them that I had received $405,000 startup grant from the Charter School Division of the State Department of Education to further that program. And that is now a public record. It was a memorandum sent to all the board members and the superintendent with an attached description, rough draft description of the programs. All of those are public records. I'd be happy to make them available to anyone interested. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Noel. Now we are on to public comment. And we have a number of speakers that Ms. Malakoff will announce. 3 minutes is customary for each speaker. If the speaker asks questions, usually there's not a dialogue. It's the speaker is free to ask, but there will not necessarily be questions answered. And I believe we will begin.
Mr. Lane Wheeler, followed by Joe Murphy.
Thank you. Thank you, Annette. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Laura. And thank you, Nancy. As a parent and step-parent of 5 children in the Santa Barbara School District, 3 of which have graduated, 1 at La Colina, 1 at San Marcos High School, and being a member of many community activities, I'd like to come and speak to you about the critical situation we have with negotiations for the teachers of Santa Barbara School District. It's time for these teachers to be given a compensatory raise, a raise that meets the standards that have been set by other districts in the surrounding areas, and to move forward with the contract negotiations immediately. Teachers have been waiting a very long time for this raise. Teachers are constantly put at the bottom of the priority list when it comes to funding salaries, and it's time now for the board to realize their responsibilities as community members to the teachers who work and strive to make this community the best place it can possibly be. You had an opportunity to see the Dos Pueblos Band perform today. That was led and created by a teacher. It didn't just happen. And those teachers are being driven out of our community because they can't afford to live here, because they don't have a salary that's competitive and that can't afford the cost of expenses in Santa Barbara. We can't eat sunshine. Teachers shouldn't be asked to do that. Nancy Harder said once, in a very brief second ago, no one can ever know the investment that a school board member makes in their community. And I would ask you all right now, I would charge you with the responsibility of making an investment in your community that's tangible and credible and respectful. And that is to honor these teachers that are out here right now with a raise that meets the standard of other districts in our surrounding areas. Our teachers have been meeting now with religious leaders and political action groups, with different social and committee groups that work in Santa Barbara, and are bringing our message to them. Right now I have in my hand over 200 postcards that I'm going to give to you tonight to read that have been signed and support the teachers of Santa Barbara School District. And I'm going to tell you there are more of these. They'll be coming in by the thousands, and you're going to be surrounded by these things, and there's no way to avoid the reality of what your community is telling you right now. The people who elected you give teachers the respect they need and show that in the form of a raise. I would charge you with that responsibility. I'd like to just take a second to read what this says. To the Santa Barbara School Board, I support hiring and keeping the best teachers in Santa Barbara and investing school district resources in the classrooms where they belong. I urge you, the elected school board, to negotiate in good faith now with the Santa Barbara Teachers Association. I call on you to reach a fair settlement that will make teachers' salaries competitive with surrounding districts, and that will keep quality teachers in our schools. That's the community, that's the pledge that over 200 people have made to you, and you'll be getting more of these. One other thing that Nancy Harder said, and I don't mean to pick on you, Nancy, I'm sorry. You said to the student representative to the board that you hope that everyone would have a wonderful holiday season. Right now, there's over 800 teachers who won't have a wonderful holiday season because the board is failing to act, and now is the time to come to the plate. This is your responsibility. Please step up. Support the people that make the district a great place and that make your job an easy job to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing, Ed?
Joe Murphy, followed by Loretta Razzo.
Hi, my name's Joe Murphy. Thank you for listening to me today. Basically, why is the president of Oxnard Educators coming and talking for Santa Barbara teachers? Well, I heard that Ed Diaz was your new chief finance officer, and I've sat at the table with him a few times. And I want you to know that since he's left, we've had the highest raises in our district. Okay, I want you to know that. We now have on the table 7.78, and we are. Okay, and by the way, we now have 3 endorsed trustees on the board because we were tired of having to picket every night for raises. I came here because I also have the honor of representing all these teachers as vice chair of Channel Island Service Center, which is basically an information clearinghouse for all the associations of CTA in Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura County. And when I heard that Santa Barbara was offering 1.5, you are an anomaly, ladies and gentlemen. All the rest of the districts in this entire Tri-County area are getting 5, 6, 7, 7.78. Our board made a commitment to actually start funding things in an open, honest, fair manner. They made their books transparent. They didn't play hide the marbles. They actually put everything right up front, said this is what we got, how do we put it out there? That's what they did, and that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to go back to into closed session and direct Ed Diaz to find the money and put it together on the salary schedule where it belongs. Okay? We are also in declining enrollment. We've lost 1,300 students in the last 3 years. We have taken some bitter cuts here and there. But even with that kind of declining enrollment, our school district, who has actually made a commitment to our members, because it costs a lot of money to live in Oxnard too, by the way, but a little bit less in Santa Barbara. So if you need a job next year, I can't guarantee one because we're in declining enrollment. But please, ladies and gentlemen, please, you have a chance. And don't wait till February to do it. This man put them to work overtime and get them in there. I'm sure Mr. Diaz has the heart to go in there and do it a few times. I've played hide the money with him before. He can find it. I'm sure he can. All right? I'm sure he can. So I want pay some respect to these ladies and gentlemen that work so hard to support your school, because this is where the rubber meets the road. These ladies and gentlemen right out here. Thank you very much.
Loretta Razzo. Loretta Razzo, followed by Ken Stevens.
I'm just going to speak from my heart. I'm looking at you and I see grins, like this is really funny. This has to be resolved. It's not going to get better. And I see you grinning and laughing like it is funny. I read this, the Santa Barbara School District. Who is this? Who is the district? Just you people? I read your goals. This has been burning a hole in my bag. I've been working a second job, teaching adult ed on Tuesday nights. I haven't been able to come since October 1st when I read this. Your goals. I'd like to see you do this without teachers. There is a wall between you and me. I don't feel a connection with you people. I haven't had a board member in my classroom for at least 6 years. I feel no kind of relationship with you. And I feel that it's time for you to make the right decisions for teachers. You know, and you say here to recruit and retain highly qualified professionals. You don't have to recruit. You've got the sunshine. That's been admitted. Okay, but retain. That is a lie. You are doing nothing to retain teachers. You have a hemorrhaging of teachers. 56.8% of teachers leaving since 2002. So don't say this to the public. This is a lie. You're not doing that. And it's very disingenuous. And I am speaking from my heart that something has to change so that we can have a relationship with you. This is just a division. And you see the Santa Barbara School District. That is you and me. This is you and all of us working together. But we're not, because we don't feel that you respect us. We do have a hard time living here. Teachers want to be able to travel to foreign countries and go visit their children and have children in their homes and in the backyard, not in an apartment complex. Let us choose where we want to live. Give us the money to choose. And you have 7% this year. And you're not paying last year's raise with this year's COLA. Come on. There is money. It is there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ken Stevens, and I would like to start tonight. By paraphrasing a familiar proverb. Inactions speak louder than words. The teachers of this district took your shocking, incredible 1.5% offer and voted it down by a 98% majority. How could you have not seen how insulting this offer was and how predictable the result of the vote would be? And then 5 days later, you came back to us with no change in your offer. No change in your thinking, no new plan, no idea as to what to do next. I can tell you what to do next. Start reading your own goals. Board focus goal number 5, the district will recruit, train, promote, and retain a highly qualified staff comprising an outstanding team of professionals. As every teacher can tell you, when you have a goal, you need to have a plan. If your idea of a plan for recruiting and retaining teachers is a salary offer of 1.5%, then you might as well eliminate that as one of your goals. This is an insult to your, quote, outstanding team of professionals. Get a plan. Teachers all over the state are receiving salary increases of 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%, 8%, 9%. My sister-in-law got 10%. We're being offered 1.5%. Teachers in our neighboring Goleta now earn a maximum of almost $82,000 annually, almost $10,000 more than we can. 1.5% won't even cover our health insurance increase this year, a pay cut. How will any of this help recruit and retain a highly qualified staff? But of course, we're given the same old mantra from you that we are a declining enrollment district and we have no money and can't afford to give bigger raises. Yes, we are a declining enrollment district and have been for 9 years. In fact, we've gone from over 6,200 students in the elementary district to about 4,500 students currently, a drop of over 25%. But what plan has the district come up with in the last 9 years to deal with this? Teachers get let go when there is declining enrollment, but there has been has there been a reduction in administrators or more efficient use of facilities? What is your plan? Establishing goals and not having a plan to accomplish them is not leadership. Leaders don't make excuses, they solve problems. Okay, I'm here to tell you tonight that this is not last year or the year before. We are furious. We've negotiated fairly with you, and we've sat on the same humiliating offer for 3 months.
Thank you.
You've forced our hand. After winter break, we will engage in some activities that we have not had to in the past, and the blame rests squarely on your shoulders. The ball is in your court, and the clock is winding down to its final seconds. 3, 2, 1. When you get to 0, it's game over. No more chances.
Eleni Pantages and Andrea Matthews. I can read it. Andrea.
Mind if we take this out? Do you promise we know what we're doing? Good evening. We'd just like to take a second to invite all of you to the San Marcos Vocal Department Winter Concert, which is tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at San Roque Church. And we have been preparing a set of Robert Frost poems set to music, which is a very beautiful set. And we would love if all of you would come join us and hear our concert. And that concert wouldn't be possible without the help of our incredible San Marcos High School teachers. We could not thank you enough. And for the board members, we do have complimentary tickets. So I hope that you will be able to join us tomorrow night. And if you can't join us tomorrow night and you'd still like to see us, you can come by and see us on Thursday night at starting at 5:45. As you've heard, Kids Helping Kids is happening at the Fess Parker Doubletree, and there's going to be dinner, live and silent auction. The Madrigals will be performing. Our award-winning jazz band is going to be performing, and we really hope to see you there, all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Eleni. Thanks, Andrea. Thank you to both of you. That concludes public comment. I'm sure that a lot of teachers will want to leave right now, but please feel free to stay for the remainder of the meeting or whatever portion you choose to stay for. We are on to our consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion?
Wait a second. We have a retirement. We do have a
did.
retirement.
2 retirements.
2 retirements. I'm sorry, I'm not ready for that. It was on F4. Hidden underneath here is retirement of Cynthia Pat Duger, secretary at San Marcos High School after 30 years, and Kazuko Kirby, the Nutrition Services after 25 years.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and an acknowledgement of 2 retirements. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Now that was pages long. We are on to our action agenda, which is letter G tonight. So item G1 is approval of resolution number 0607-18, emergency resolution, award of contract to Channel Coast Corporation without bidding and advertising to mitigate mold at Dos Pueblos High School.
And Mr. Hetjunk, our Director of Facilities and Operations, will explain the need for this.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvis, Madam President, board members. On December 1st, it was brought to our attention that we had the presence of mold in room A6 at Dos Pueblos High School. This is a ceramics room that has a wet situation in the room. It appears that there are leaks behind a couple of the sinks in the wall. There were higher than normal or high enough to cause concern level of mold when we tested it in the kiln room and in the classroom. In the backup agenda, I gave you some background on, in the past, having approved these resolutions for emergency work to be done, so we interrupt the educational process and delivery of curriculum the minimum amount possible. Since you've last approved one of these resolutions, new guidelines have come into effect that cause us to be even stricter. Those are provided in the backup. In order for this resolution to pass, it does need to be unanimous. The resolution has been furnished to the county education office. The superintendent of county schools must also sign off on the resolution. They've reviewed it. They've said it meets all the criteria. So if you decide to pass this resolution, we hopefully will have the students back into their classroom when they return from winter break. We're also concerned that we want to abate this mold as soon as possible so it does not spread to other areas and affect more than one classroom at Dos Pueblos, an already overcrowded school.
Any board questions for Mr. Hetjunk?
Go
ahead, Ms. Cordero.
Oh, I just had a question based on the pictures that were in our packet, and maybe it's not, maybe it just looks more severe or more obvious in the pictures than it really is, but I found it hard to understand why this would not have been known prior to December 1st. It looks so clear in the pictures.
Well, a lot of the things that you see in the pictures are probably some housekeeping issues. When you look underneath the sink, unless the school submits a work order that says there's a problem, our maintenance department typically doesn't go in and look under sinks. We went in when we became aware of the problem, we evaluated the problem, we took immediate action to remove people from that room and test it.
So it's possible that the that staff who were working in the room knew, but administrative maintenance staff didn't know.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there were no work orders to call attention to any leaks or any problems with water leakage until approximately 1 week before we discovered this. We went in. There was a sink that was leaking at the faucet. We fixed that. There was a OSHA complaint that we received. We've addressed that. And when our risk management people were out, CISC, they noticed what appeared to be a small area that possibly could be mold. They advised us to get it tested as soon as possible. We did test it. Once the test came back positive, we immediately vacated the room.
Ms. Parker?
I just wanted to clarify something on the letter that you received from Channel Coast Corporation from Mr. Lee. In it, he states that Channel Coast Corporation dispatched staff on December 22nd, 2006. And I'm assuming he meant December 2nd, that this has happened in the past.
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure that was clear.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be true. It was brought to our attention on December 1st.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I think it's pretty self-evident.
You'll notice how quickly we got it to you.
Motion.
I move to approve the resolution number 0607-18.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, passes unanimously. Thanks, Mr. Hetjong.
Thank you.
Item G2, approval of contract to award low responsive bidder for campus modernization, Phase 1, bid package B, and ADA upgrades at San Marcos High School.
And Mr. Hetjong will present this as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvis, board members. You should have a information packet in front of you that's labeled additional information for attachment G2. This is the additional information that the district has received that was not contained in your board packet. It is available on the table for members of the public. We opened bids for this project. Century Contractors was the apparent low bid. SBS Corporation was the second low bidder, and they protested the bid. We've shared that information with Century. Century responded. We referred the matter to legal counsel, and in short, if you look at the bottom of my December 11th memorandum to Dr. Sarvis, where it talks about the issue, SBS filed the bid protest, claiming that a subcontractor for asbestos abatement as required by the Public Contract Code was not listed in the bid. Century responded that because a sub-tier contractor, in other words, a subcontractor of a subcontractor, was going to perform the work, that it wasn't necessary to list that person as a subcontractor for asbestos abatement. The Public Contract Code, as outlined in the memorandum from Griffin Thornburg, this was turned over to legal counsel, Nathan Rogers, that if a certain amount, if any work is greater than 0.5% of the total bid, a subcontractor or a contractor must be listed for that work, whether it be the contractor, a subcontractor, or a subcontractor of a subcontractor. Excuse me. And I think the memorandum from Griffin Thornburg is pretty self-explanatory. They advise us that the bid protest has merit. We should uphold the bid protest. And my recommended motion is on the second page of the extra attachment, bolded at the bottom. The difference between the low bidder and the second low bidder is more than $100,000, so it will have a fiscal impact of making this award. I urge you to uphold the bid protest. On the top paragraph on the second page or the back page, I've given a little bit of history on times in the past when staff has recommended to you that we uphold the bid protest. If you do not uphold the bid protest, we're subject to their attorneys coming back, injunctions being filed. In my opinion, that could happen. Also then, if you waive this bid irregularity, as long as these 5 members are on the board, you would be required to do so for any other contractor in the future. Once any board member changes, then you're no longer required to do that. So you would be setting a precedent for yourself for the future. And that our recommendation is that we uphold the bid protest and award the contract to SBS Corporation. And Mr. Price is here if you have any legal questions. Oh, he was here. He's nearby.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Cordero.
Thank you, Ms. Harder. And perhaps you can answer it. And that is, we are not allowed to go out for a second bid, correct? If we reject the first, if we uphold the protest, then are we required to accept the second highest bidder?
You have a choice of accepting the second highest bidder or rejecting all bids, and directing staff to rebid the project. The reason you would want to do that is if the second low bidder caused the project to go over budget. The second low bidder is not causing the project to go over budget, and I could not recommend to you or guarantee you or even hope that if we went out to bid that the second round of bids would not be higher than the first round. Contractors may look more closely. Things may be more competitive. They may not be. We're seeing a better bidding climate right now than we have in the past. I could stand here and tell you that in 2 months from now you may receive a better bid. In fact, there's a chance that you may. The other thing is that a lot of this work is ADA work that we're required to get under contract by our lawsuit settlement, which is why you're seeing this bid award now before the first of the year. We do have some timelines for the ADA work.
Actually, this is the first one we've had in a while where there's 6. That's quite a number. That's about the highest we've had.
Yeah, we have a good turnout.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Move to approve the contract award to low responsive bidder for campus modernization phase 1 bid package B and ADA upgrades at San Marcos High School.
Ms. Cordero, you also need to include uphold the bid protest
And uphold the bid protest.
by SBS Corporation. Okay, great. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes
Thank you.
unanimously.
Who seconded that?
Ms. Parker.
Good.
Now we are on to our expulsion cases. Case numbers 0607-19, -21, -24, and -25. I'm happy to get the ball rolling. The chair may make motions. In the case of 0607-25, I'm taking them in the order on a sheet that we work from, a worksheet that we work from. Move to approve the findings and recommendations of the hearing panel.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
In the case of 0607-24, move to approve the findings and recommendations of the hearing panel and to include anger management counseling.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
In the case of 06/07-19, move to uphold the findings and recommendations of the hearing panel.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. In the case of 06/07-21, move to uphold the findings and recommendations of the hearing panel.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And none are opposed, 5-0. Okay. Now we are on to our conference agenda, and item H1 is a report on the progress of the facilities master plan update.
Very good. Dave, I'll have you introduce Pat Saley.
Pardon me, I'm starting the machine up again. It got bumped with all the people in the room and the computer got unplugged, so we'll get her PowerPoint going in just a minute. Tonight we have Pat Saley here. Pat Saley is our consultant that the board authorized to help us with our master plan update. At the last board workshop in the conference room next door, the board narrowed down some options that were listed in the facilities master plan, and the board charged the Pat Saley and staff and the district to collect additional information, get some additional input, and tonight we are giving you an update on what we've done since that meeting as far as meetings that we've held with the school sites and information that we've received. We are not giving any recommendations tonight. We are just bringing you up to date with information that we have gathered so far. And with that, let me introduce Pat Saley.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I believe you have a copy of the PowerPoint.
Yes, we
Good.
do, and there should be one on the
Thank-
side table for those who are
Thank
interested.
you. Like to just give you a very brief background. I'm going to go through that quickly because I think I think even Mrs. Parker has been at most of the meetings when we've been talking about this. The focus has been the shared sites, the school programs that share a site. There are 21 programs and 17 sites, which means there has to be sharing that goes along. And there are 5 sites that have more than one program, which affects a minimum of 10 programs. We're also going to talk a little bit about school closure guidelines. This was also a directive to the consultant team to start to gather information. Felt it was prudent to talk about school closure guidelines now when it's not imminent. Takes some of the pressure off, gives us a chance to really see what's happening in that regard. And then we'll talk about next steps. These are the priorities that you have already reviewed numerous times. We are sticking to these. We may tweak them slightly, but don't expect to. We're really focusing on the right-hand side. We're trying to make sure any school we're studying in terms of facilities, is safe, et cetera. And we're trying, where we have shared sites or schools on more than one site, we're trying to avoid splitting programs. If a program is split, we're trying to bring it back together. The process to date, community meetings and such. Since the end of August, in the last 3 months, we've had on the order of about 16, 17 meetings covering primarily these 5 shared sites. And we're trying to learn as much as we can before we put pen on paper and design anything. We have an ad hoc design team. The participants on the left, it's been really beneficial to have this high-level staff at virtually every meeting. We are all hearing the same information. We have learned a lot. And we are supplementing the participants with specialists, Carl Mayrose and Dave Weniger as necessary, and the staff we meet with at the schools, we more or less leave that up to them who they would like to have come to these meetings. But having this nucleus around which these meetings are built has been very beneficial. We have initially met with each school representatives separately. That seems to work well. And we expect that as things move along, we'll bring the 2 schools, 3 schools, whatever it may be, together to start looking at things. First of the 5 sites, these are not in any particular order. I think I end up changing order every time. Franklin and Cesar Chavez over on the east side. The board direction, and again, these were, as we saw it, pretty much all conceptual actions. We were given a directive to go out and research these. If any of these have a totally fatal flaw, we'll come back and tell you and we'll take another look at it. So our job was really to do the research, and that's what we're doing. The directive was to not split Cesar Chavez. This is a very crowded campus right now. And one of the options had been possibly to move some of Cesar Chavez up to Cleveland. It's about half a mile away. The board directed, no, leave Cesar Chavez where it is at the Franklin site, but we have issues we have to deal with there. We have had 3 meetings, 2 relating to Cesar Chavez, 1 Franklin, and we have not yet met with Cleveland staff. We're not sure how that would fit into the whole, but we're looking at sort of those 3 schools on the east side. The issues relating to Franklin and Cesar Chavez, first of all, just how do you share these facilities with 2 programs and maintain, if not improve, the quality of those programs? The location of rooms is very important to both schools. Dedicated special use classrooms. They have a lot of parent programs and parenting and preschool and a lot of things that really supplement what's offered in the community, and it's of great benefit, and like to see if we can't continue and possibly expand those kind of special uses, but there's only so much space to go around, and of course instructional space is the highest priority. how to use those shared facilities. They have a huge multi-purpose room, but as now configured, it really can only handle one activity at a time. Outdoor space, playground space in particular for Cesar Chavez is on the small side, and there's now some portables on that. And then something we hadn't heard before, but just recently heard, was a lack of parking in the area. And some of the teachers and staff we met with are also residents in the area, and that is definitely an issue that we have to deal with. And it's not necessarily an easy one, but it's one we want to try to fix if we can. In terms of Franklin, what we heard quite clearly from the staff is, what is our optimal size and what should we plan for? And there's a certain synergy when you have 500 kids, plus or minus. They're above 500 now, but what makes that school work? What's a good number? And then we plan for that. And then Cesar Chavez, their desired growth, their optimal of around 280 or 300 kids versus what space is available, and we're trying to balance these things. So those are, thus far, the issues relating to Franklin and Cesar Chavez. Goleta Valley and Santa Barbara Charter School, the direction was that the charter school shall permanently be located at Goleta Valley, and I think we took this one as a more concrete recommendation maybe than the others. This will be their permanent home. And we've had 3 meetings. The charter school has an area dedicated to them. Goleta Valley's enrollment is declining slowly. So that's one of the things we're trying to balance. What is the trend? Are there going to be classrooms that we could vacate, by moving things around a bit, near the charter school to serve their needs, to keep the amount of new construction to a minimum? There are some ADA issues there that we're trying to be smart about, putting ADA money into the campus, charter school campus, and ways in which just use the facilities as best we can. The issues for these 2 schools, just trying to balance the 2 of them and maintain the quality of the program, and in particular watch the enrollment trends for Goleta Valley. As that drops, it just gives us some more room to work with. The charter school, their office is kind of buried in the back. They'd like a much more prominent location and a storefront. Their play areas, because they haven't been permanently sited there, they could certainly use some upgrade. Their philosophy relates to clustering similar age groups, so that's something we need to be cognizant of. It's not just put them anywhere, and most campuses are like that, but this one more so. And they would like to return the home-based program, which is a couple miles away at a church, to their site. And again, we don't know if we can accommodate that. And for Goleta Valley, basically, they want to be good neighbors with the charter school, of course, and want to maintain the quality of their program. So these are the issues we're dealing with at this Goleta site. La Cumbre Junior High and the Santa Barbara Community Academy, the direction was to explore moving the kindergarten through 3rd graders to the academy over on the west side, to La Cumbre. As you recall, the 4th through 6th graders are there now, and we're in the 2nd year of what was initially a 2-year trial period, just as things were worked out. Also, the board's direction was to maintain the autonomy of the 2 programs, to not make it a K-8 school, even though they're both core knowledge based, but maintain the integrity and separation of the 2. And we've had 5 meetings with La Cumbre or academy staff, and these have been very eventful. The overall issues, there's a real basic one. Is this the right place for the academy? And what we've had conveyed to us is they want to be together. They're not saying La Cumbre is absolutely the right place, but what is of paramount importance to them is the whole K-6 school to be together. Assuming that is the right place, how should the 2 schools be configured? Because there is the intent to maintain the separation of the 2 schools. And comparisons have been made to La Colina that has open alternative, Goleta Valley with Santa Barbara Charter. The types of schools, one-story open corridor schools versus two-story interior corridor schools, present some challenges in trying to fit two schools on a campus. So not everything is created equal in that sense. La Cumbra's primary concerns: will they have enough room to grow? They're one of the few, if not the only, secondary school to pick up students. They went from about 405 to 480, I think is their number this year. And they would really like to maintain the quality of their program, and they would like to make sure they have parity with the other junior high schools. Understandable. For the academy, assuming that all 7 grades are at the La Cumbra site, some sort of separate entrance and parking, which is the case at the other 2 junior highs that have elementary schools there. Playground area upgrades. They would have to add after school and other elementary programs that are not currently at that site. And then transportation. We learned yesterday at a meeting that 80-90% of the 4th through 6th graders come here to this site and are bused over there. So only a small percentage of kids are currently driven by parents or friends or whatever it may be over to that site. So transportation and where the academy kids live relative to La Cumbra is something we're going to need to explore. La Cuesta Continuation High School. As you know, this is the Santa Barbara High School site. They also have programs at the other 2 high schools, as well as a small 4-classroom, 2-program 4 classrooms at La Colina. The board's direction was to reduce the number of La Cuesta sites. It's just much easier for them to fulfill their educational goals. If they have fewer sites, they can use their teacher resources much more efficiently. We've only had 1 meeting related to this program because the main option that we're looking at is housing, like moving the Canna Perdido Nopal building uses over to the K through 3 academy site, assuming the academy relocates elsewhere. So until that issue is resolved, we're not going to put a lot of energy into this because we have plenty on our plates. But to back up, our goal, again, to consolidate to fewer sites. 1 would probably be ideal, although retaining at least 1 program in Goleta, the more we've thought about it since that board meeting, the more sense that makes. It's, we have a long linear urban area here, and there's a lot of kids out there. They may not have transportation. It just makes sense to retain at least a program at either Dos Pueblos or San Marcos. Another issue that we have to consider is the multiple site funding that the district receives because they have 4 sites, and dollars are very important for any public agency. So that's not the driving force, but it's something we need to remember. So again, we're really waiting till the disposition of this site here is resolved to dive into this in any detail. There are other options, but there's really no point in spending a lot of time on this right now.
Ms. Staley, could you
Sure.
could you say how much money is involved in this multiple site funding?
I believe it's $127,000
Sounds
per
about
school.
right.
Is that right?
That's per school?
Per school.
Per site?
Per each of those continuation school designations.
That money goes to the host campus?
No, it goes into the continuation program.
Okay. And it would go away if they came to a single campus?
Well,
I'm recalling Dr. Ebenstein's letter.
There are a number of options. Sure, there are a number of options here.
Dr. Noel, we've been investigating with the State Department of Ed what some of those options are. We would certainly like to retain those CDS numbers at each of our sites as they are currently so that we retain the funding. And so we've explored what kind of programs would be allowed at those small sites. And it appears that we can continue to operate some form of alternative ed. We we turn the money and the administrative control over to the principal of that site to use. Their teachers could move in and out through the day as they saw fit. We haven't fully developed that, but certainly we were given the go-ahead that that could be done while we are moving the larger La Cuesta to a single site or two sites or whatever the board decides. But we are able to maintain those small sites if the board so chooses. And we develop a good program at each
So
one.
the money doesn't move necessarily, all the money doesn't move to the central site?
Not the small school funding money, no.
No, if we abandon a CDS code for any one of those schools, then we would forfeit the money. But that doesn't mean, as it stands right now, we have essentially 2 classrooms at each site. Well, we have a little more than that at Santa Barbara High School. But there's nothing in the requirements about the size of the program. In fact, many districts have much larger programs. They catch kids, especially at the 9th grade level, as they're starting to fail. They put them immediately into a program right there at the site. Eventually, for those that are not making the grade, then they move them to a more central site. And many of the programs across the state are larger than ours. We could have one large program, we could have a number of small programs, and we could have any combination of programs.
I guess I want to ask one other clarification. You refer to the small schools money as though it's different than the revenue limit money. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yes, I can. The state, for small and necessary schools, gives an allocation of dollars just for that purpose, because the ADA amounts that are pulled in, the revenue limit amounts, are not enough to run a school. And so the additional and over and above funding is the small and necessary school funding. The funding for continuation schools is now in the AB 825 Pupil Retention Block Grant. That's where continuation funding lies, and that's where we pull the funds for the La Cuesta site. And that's more than enough to run continuation.
So the small schools money, as you say, would then stay?
I would suggest,
if the CDS number stayed.
if the CDS number stays, we could retain those dollars at the site and just reconfigure the control and the supervision of the site. And reconfigure, as Dr. Sarvis was saying, which is a delightful idea, that we could intervene first quarter, first semester of a 9th grader's year. That's when we see the most failure. That's when kids get into the most trouble, and that's when they need the most intervention. And that would be, I think our principals would agree that that would be certainly a real advantage to have on their sites.
Thank you.
The last school site that is shared that we're looking at is La Colina. They have about 1,000 kids right now, just over, I think. They actually have 3 programs. It is a pretty large parcel, somewhat hilly, but Open Alternative School has been there for 20 plus years in the rear. That's where Safety Town is and all sorts of things. There are also 4 La Cuesta classrooms there, 2 programs. And we've had 2 meetings, one with OAS, one with La Colina, and we have previously met with La Cuesta. The direction here, similar to the charter school Goleta Valley, is, sorry, it doesn't say it here, but the board direction was to permanently site OAS at La Colina, and that was big for that school community. And one of the things we're looking at related to La Cuesta, and I don't want to imply we've done nothing about La Cuesta, that is not true. One of the things we're considering as part of all this is whether those 4 classrooms, 2 programs, 2 classrooms each, would combine with La Cuesta or go elsewhere, per our discussion a moment ago. And if those 4 classrooms are freed up, that certainly helps the situation at La Colina, whether 2 would be used by OAS, 2 by La Colina. We're not there yet. We're not even close to there yet. But assuming that they do move, which certainly makes things easier, we're looking at how do we share the remaining facilities equitably between La Colina and OAS, and then in particular, how do we increase and upgrade the facilities used by OAS? They are in a pretty small space and they make good use of it, but to do it right, they would need some more space. They too would like some sort of storefront, some, announcement that here we are. Improved office. Their office doubles and triples with all sorts of uses. Some sort of formalized drop-off and pickup. We'd like to see if that loop driveway on the west side of the property on the 154 side could work for that purpose. A multi-purpose room. Pretty much every school would like that, very understandably. A covered lunch area. They have a very innovative program. They grow a lot of their own food. They sometimes are forced to, if it's inclement weather, sort of eat in the corridors type thing, and something improved. And then again, the playground equipment. The schools that have not been permanently located tend to really need some improved outdoor space. And then for La Colina, we're watching the enrollment trends there. They only went down a few kids this last year, but just maintain and retain the quality of their program. And they have worked well together for many, many years, these 3 schools really. So this is just a matter of figuring it out, what makes the most sense. It will help if we can relocate those 4 La Cuesta programs, but it'll work even if that doesn't happen. So switching gears, you recall that when we started this process, that was when the enrollment had gone down a bit more sharply than one would hope, and it has since tailed off some. It's still going down, but not as sharply, but there was a lot of talk about, well, what's going to be happening. So when we did the community meetings back about a year and a half ago, we talked about school closure, and each time we presented this to the board, there's been questions and the desire to develop something. This is a slide straight from one of the earlier presentations. This was the feedback we received. The research we've done, and fortunately Mr. Diaz went to a really great session about a week ago, and I stole all sorts of stuff from that. Very helpful. About half all districts in the state are declining. It's sort of feast or famine. And I think it's a safe bet the ones along the coast are the ones that are declining, and the inland ones are the ones that are growing. So the challenge is it just costs a lot less per child the more kids you have on a site. I mean, at some point, you're overcrowded, but if you have a school with a capacity of 500 and you have 400, so many of your costs are fixed related to the 500 student capacity. You go down to 400, you have a fewer teachers, but your cost just went up. And that's one of the challenges here. ADA, the revenues go down, and still have all this maintenance, staffing, et cetera. So we'd like to learn from what other districts have done. What we have learned, and we already have experience with this, is the very first step when a district feels this is on the horizon, and of course everyone advises to plan way ahead, is forming a district real property advisory committee. And we did that about, I think it was 2.5 years ago, to look at the Tatum property, Hidden Valley. We looked at the fire station, Happy Canyon. I think those were the 4. So we have experience with this. We had a 10 or 11 member committee, Brown Act meetings, public, and it was a good process. We educated everyone, and I believe some good recommendations came out of that. It would, of course, be considerably more complicated to look at school closure issues. And here are some of the things that we've gleaned from the material Mr. Diaz received and just internet searches and such. But one of the first things is a demographic study, and here are some of the things that you would look at. You know, the preschool census, birth rates, correlation to kindergartners, the sort of things to get a feel for who is coming. And then attrition, what's happening with transfers, all those sorts of things. Scattergrams are where the students live relative to their home schools or other schools. Housing construction is not considerable here, but you'd still look at it. Condition assessment, which schools are in the best shape, which make the most sense in terms of the condition of the facilities. If you had a choice, everything was equal, you'd naturally keep the school open that was in the best shape and required the least amount of maintenance. You look at cost factors. And you look at revenue factors as well. For example, if you have to combine more classes and go above 20-to-1 in your primary grades, you lose that class size reduction money, not something anybody wants, but you have to look at what are the repercussions on the revenues as well as the costs. So this is something, all this kind of information, there may be other things specific to the Santa Barbara district that would be appropriate, but if ever the district does need to consider closing a school, they want to make sure you have the best information possible.
One thing I don't see up there is sort of how the school is doing, the program, whether it's program improvement, whether it's they're performing, or whether in fact is a great team that's doing a great job.
No, good point. So these are just some of the things that they suggest you study. They talk in the material that we have. There's lots of alternatives before you ever get there. You can reduce the number of leased portables, and there may be other facilities that are leased. Change boundaries, grades, close, mothball, wings of buildings, things like that. McKinley was mothballed for quite a few years.
Do we have that many leased portables that are not part of our construction needs?
Currently in the elementary district, we lease 4 portable classrooms for Cesar Chavez. In the secondary district, we lease 3 classrooms for overcrowding at Santa Barbara High School and 5 classrooms for overcrowding at San Marcos High School.
Once we have construction done, is there any portables that could be replace those?
We are investigating and have had meetings with elementary district principals and Robin Sawaski about where we can relocate some portables that may be able to relocate it from schools to take the place of the leased units at Cesar Chavez. Construction that is taking place, that is being used from interim housing, is being placed in other leased portables at Santa Barbara High School and San Marcos High School. So when construction ceases, they're still going to be as overcrowded as they are now unless we start to see a decline in enrollment. We have the possibility of replacing 8 classrooms at San Marcos High School, possibly in the future with developer fee money. That would maybe free up some classrooms that could be used to take the place of the leased classrooms and send those back to the leasing company.
Sounds good.
The materials I reviewed also talk about, on the revenue side, if a school were closed, and this would be way down the road, some of the uses and priorities for use and lease revenue, which conventional wisdom tells us goes into the general fund. We're still checking on that. But there is a lot of demand, and there is a way to use the facilities very efficiently and more or less bank them for the future. So these are just a few of them. So our intention is to continue doing some research. Maybe the next time we come back to you, have some clearer guidelines. This is just sort of a collection of thoughts and research that the board might like to consider, and they would be guidelines. They wouldn't be hard and fast. This is absolutely what you have to do. But I think for all of us looking out in the future, would like to have sort of a game plan if this is necessary. It's much better to do it now than when it's sort of staring all of us in the face. So that would be our intent, to massage this, do some more work. Any feedback you have would be appreciated, and that would be included in the facilities master plan. So, last slide. The design team is going to meet actually next Monday for the first time to start talking about the feedback we've received. Again, we're dealing with 5 shared sites, so it takes a while to move everything forward, but we're trying to keep going and keep our momentum. Once we figure out what our next steps are, we'll meet again with the schools. We expect that to be an iterative process. Thus far, we've met separately. Soon, we would hope to be meeting together with them to problem solve. We would be bringing you options to review. It may make sense to bring 1 or 2 school sites at a time, because otherwise it's pretty overwhelming. We haven't even, figured that out. If you have any thoughts, be glad to hear them. We'll, after we get some feedback from the board, we'll go into more detail in terms of funding and phasing and how actually would we implement whatever the options may be. Continue working on the school closure guidelines, and then ultimately there'd be public hearings on the whole facilities master plan. Once adopted, we go into implementation. So that concludes presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Ms. Saley. Board members, Ms. Parker?
I think I would just like to address Ms. Sawatsky on this in terms of the school closure portion of it. I think it's a great idea to put together a real property advisory committee that focuses on this. We do have a very active participatory elementary parents advisory committee, particularly this year. And I think it would be great if Ms. Saley came and gave a presentation just about a school closure aspect, why districts look at school closure, what a separate committee would be looking at, and then give parents an opportunity to comment on that and to brainstorm before you even set up a separate committee, because they'll have great ideas and lots of comments.
Great idea.
Ms. Cordero?
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions about the report that we had in our packet. One of them, and I apologize if I missed it in your presentation, but one of the concerns that was raised in the report from La Cuesta was keeping the community day school, the junior high age students and Las Alturas students separate from the high school students at La Cuesta, if the sites were consolidated. And I apologize if you said that.
Nope, I didn't.
Okay. And I just wanted to make sure that that was still a part of that consideration.
Let me explain, first of all, that on the La Colina campus, we have 2 classrooms that are community day school. They're 7th, 8th grade students. We have 2 classrooms that are continuation school. We call it Las Alturas. So those are 2 separate programs. They're 2 different age groups. And if those programs are pulled together in one location, then we would want to keep the 7th, 8th grade students separate from the high school students. That's
correct. Okay.
Could I just add one thing to that? Kathy Abney, the principal, emailed me today to that very effect. It's really the community day, the 7th and 8th graders in particular would be better if they're separate. The Las Alturas, she was not really concerned at all if they are located on a high school campus. So that was my error there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And then also, just a correction on the bottom of page 3, under La Colina Junior High School and Open Alternative School, Area C, major issues.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think goes back to Santa Barbara Charter School and it says number 2, while planning for Santa Barbara or SBCS, consider Goleta Valley's needs in maintaining the quality of the program.
That's called cutting and pasting and missing it.
Okay.
That is intended to be while planning for OAS, consider La Colina's needs.
Okay, thank you. And then, oh, sorry. And then just a question about at the very end of the report, there was a mention of the cost savings in closing schools, and it said Carpinteria's recent action to close an elementary school was expected to net about $250,000, and I was wondering at the verb tense there was expected. Does that mean they no longer expect that, or does that mean we just don't know for sure?
As I understand it, that's an approximate figure, and
So
there
they
may
still
be
expect it to. Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Nice round number, but could be less, could be more. Yeah, if they close it, that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Saley? Comments? The other piece of information that I would be interested in is not a piece that the board can provide to Ms. Saley, and that would be if we were to look at school performance or PI status, what criteria would we be developing in order to examine 2 or 3 schools perhaps? So I think that's something that our
If we were-
administrators and our principals would need to put their thinking caps on.
I'm sorry, Ms. Herter. Did you mean if we were to look at that as criteria
yes.
for possible closure?
Yes.
And we've gone over the steps and the process within the No Child Left Behind restructuring as you kind of move down the line. And when you get to years 3, 4, and 5, there's serious restructuring aspects of that, which I suppose could include that kind of closing a school, moving it, changing the school dramatically, combining, lots of, many right answers for that.
I just wanted to express some concern about using that as a criteria because 30 years ago or whenever it was that we closed or so many of the downtown schools, there was a lot of outcry over the fact that many of the schools in the working class neighborhoods were the schools that were being closed. And my concern is that all of our current PI schools are in the working class neighborhoods, which are largely ethnic minority Latino neighborhoods. And using that as a criteria would, again, put us in the position of possibly closing schools in those neighborhoods, and the schools in the more affluent neighborhoods would be in no jeopardy whatsoever of being closed.
Please don't misunderstand, Ms. Cordero. I'm talking about developing criteria, not necessarily using that criteria, but adding to the list that we have here and then deciding what criteria we wish to use when we move forward. So it's putting a complete set of criteria in front of us and discarding some along the way if we choose to do so.
Well, I would certainly join Mrs. Cordero's in expressing a concern about having that as a criterion, and I would hope that before it became a criterion in any operational sense, there'd be a good, extensive public debate about it.
In my response, I wasn't inferring that if a school becomes a program improvement school and they move along, that would be a reason for closing a school. Not at all. It's in light of the restructuring part that the board needs to consider. There might be options of combining schools and creating new magnet schools, different focus, that type of thing, not closing a school and eliminating, where kids walk to school and
Mrs. Harder, may I?
Yes.
I think we also have to look with No Child Left Behind in the federal law as it stands right now. We cannot require parents to put their children at program improvement schools, so that's a cold hard reality. So I think that may have to play a part in it. And I think we also need to look at the fact that if you look at children, if you look at at-risk subgroups and you have 2 schools where one school is serving them better, and it may be a program improvement school that's serving them better, that may be more important ultimately than whether it's program improvement status or not. But I think parents of those at-risk children will want to put their kids at the school that has a higher functioning program. So,
Do we have data on how many people have availed themselves of the transfer option provided under No Child Left Behind?
Very few.
Yeah, at
How
the
many?
elementary.
Was that a number, Dr. Cyrus, or was that just
Very few. At the elementary level, none.
None that have come, when
No.
we do our transfers, there may be that reason, but they have not stated it.
And you're talking about transfer requests as opposed to kindergarten children where the parents simply do
Yes.
not decide to enroll them in the first place.
Exactly. It's
And-
hard to know if that's
Yeah.
behind any of the
Do we-
reasons.
have we seen any kind of trend in that area, kindergarten level?
Well, it's hard to judge that one.
Is there a way we could develop data for that?
I don't know how we could
That'd be
without
tough.
going back and questioning people now.
For
Well,
it-
if somebody who lives next door to McKinley shows up at Monroe,
Mhm.
I would think we'd.
That would be the only way that you could do it. Otherwise, you'd be knocking on the door of every
I
parent of
understand.
every 5-year-old in
Well,
Santa Barbara.
perhaps this is something that would be judged in a positive way rather than a negative way. We have a couple of schools in working class areas in town that are high-performing schools.
That's a-
And I would think that that the board would also view the performance at that school before the board would decide to pull the plug on that school and dismantle that kind of a program.
That was exactly why I brought it up. I had visited a school recently. I think they're doing a very good job, and in a difficult neighborhood, and they're doing an excellent job. And it seems a crime. It seems would be wrong to break that team apart when they're doing so well. So it's the other side of what you were saying.
We have 10 speaker slips. We are on time for a break. Would the board like to proceed with speakers or take a shorter break, perhaps, so it's less of an impact on the speakers? I'm hearing break from some and speakers from other. We will take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
And if anyone else would like to turn in a speaker slip, now is the time. Otherwise, I'm going to close speaker slips for this item. Okay, go.
3 minutes, remember? And I will stop people at I will tell you when there's 30 seconds left. Michael Schallenberger, followed by Laura Baker.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, the board and the district. Thank you for hearing our concerns. I did want to address the master plan, and actually tonight I was encouraged. Laura Malikoff, for the first time in this whole ordeal of looking at moving the Santa Barbara Community Academy to La Cumbre, this is the first time I've heard anything other than loading numbers and money. I just want to encourage you, two of you, I just voted you in. I have utmost confidence in you, both of you, as well as you are a smart group of people. Please, we have to look at what is best for these kids. You have a hard job. I know there's a lot of money to deal with. There's budgets. What works for the kids? We just talked about closing schools. What's the criteria for closing a school? What would be the chances of taking this phenomenal academy that is doing a great job with some at-risk kids, giving them one of the, we all talked about, we've been a declining enrollment district for, I don't know how many years, 2%, 2.5%, 2% over the last 9 years. How long would it be till we could redraw some boundary lines and give them their own elementary campus, already with a playground, with no physical infrastructure to build or change? It's already there. I know redrawing the boundary line seems like a difficult thing. We've looked at it for Franklin and Cleveland. Obviously, it's doable. There's like 5 elementary schools out on the west side and the Mesa area. Would any one of them be open to a phenomenal core knowledge curriculum that could be a great boost to their school? Have they been approached? Have we asked them that? Are we allowed to ask them that? Maybe we're not allowed to. But I just think we haven't looked at all the options. It seems to me like we're spending an awful lot of money into looking at moving 2 schools together, an elementary onto a secondary campus, an indoor secondary campus, which does change things from La Colina and Goleta Valley. Is that really the best use obviously we have limited money. Teachers know that. Is that the best use of the money, and is really that the best things for these kids and these families? Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mr. Schellenberger.
Laura Baker, followed by Tiara Dotson.
Thank you. My name's Laura Baker. I'm a teacher at La Cumbre Junior High. First, I'd like to say congratulations to Dr. Noel and Mrs. Parker. We look forward to your wisdom on the board. And happy holidays to the staff and the board and your family, and I hope you all have a restful, joyful holiday together. So I think we forget to have those niceties sometimes at these meetings. So I have some issues with some of the wording and the intent on the Facilities Master Plan Progress Memo by Pat Saley. It was attachment to H1 this evening. I noticed on the PowerPoint that Mrs. Saley corrected part of this and actually wrote, oh goodness, here we go. Wrote, explore moving the K through 3 Academy to La Cumbre. Yet in the memo itself, it says the board direction was move K through 3 of the Academy to La Cumbre. And it is my understanding, if I remember correctly, and I looked at my tape last night when I looked at this, that on the August 29th workshop, the board made the rare decision to take action on a conference agenda item and directed Pat Saley and Associates to flesh out the budget for this conceptual idea of moving the Academy to La Cumbre. And I see no information in this progress update about fleshing out a budget. There's no money talked about in this progress update. It's all about all these meetings we've been having, all of the issues which need to be discussed. However, the board direction was flesh out the budget. I don't see that happening. I see that in the next step section of the PowerPoint. It's number 5 on the next step. Additional study, funding and phasing. I'm just, I'm shocked. Some would say this is a matter of semantics, looking at this, and that, oh, gee, well, we know that everything's at conceptual stage right now, looking at the Facilities Master Plan, but I beg to differ. It's not. And from the La Cumbre point of view, all along, and I've said it to you many times, we have felt like this is a done deal. That the decision was made behind the scenes, or feels like it was made behind the scenes, and we even had a board member that sat down with a parent and a teacher moments after 25 speakers spoke in opposition to this and said, oh, this is going to happen. I mean, the message has been very clear to us that we have no say in this, that yes, we've had meetings, but we feel like it's just going in here and out there. So I'm having a hard time with this. I'm tired of it, to be honest with you. Thank you. I'm going to cut to the chase. Let's call it like it is. The elementary budget cannot and should not handle the burden of this proposal. The elementary budget has no money to modify the junior high campus. The elementary budget cannot withstand, nor should the general school district population withstand the draining of funds for this supposed benefit of so few students. The board took action on a conference agenda item on August 29th to set this poorly thought out plan into action. Take action tonight. Stop this. Say enough is enough. Direct Pat Saley to remove option number 3 from the Facilities Master Plan. Direct her to find a more appropriate placement for the K through 3. Leave the 4 through 6 where it is. And find an elementary school that has declining enrollment. It'll be obvious in a couple of years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tiara Dotson, followed by Larry Good.
Good evening. My name is Tiara Dodson, and I'm a proud teacher at La Cumbre Junior High. I'd like to start by saying that we've really had a great working relationship with the Community Academy. We've really enjoyed meeting their teachers. We've enjoyed and benefited greatly from many of their 6th graders becoming our 7th graders this year. We've really embraced their core knowledge program, and we really enjoy them. And the more we get to know them, the more we realize they deserve better. They deserve a better facility than what we could offer them. They deserve an elementary campus. They deserve a campus that's set up for their program. Now, another thing that might be thought of again is we had a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade program at our school that was very successful. We had over 900 children that used to attend our school. The problem was the funding was not there, and so our 6th grade program got sent back to the elementary schools. The elementary schools took them back, but many of them behind the scenes actually said that they would have rather had them at La Cumbre. If we're going to consider options of how to fill our 6th grade wing, let's put 6th graders back there. My other concern is the busing problem that we might be having if the community does indeed move over to our campus. the idea of dropping them off here at this site and having them show up at La Cumbre concerns me. What teacher will be supervising those children getting on a bus? I wouldn't want a kindergartner standing out there without a parent or teacher or someone, a credentialed person, watching them. This is a fairly busy street. What if someone fell off a curb, etc.? I think that needs to be much better thought through. Or the idea of 300 extra cars coming down Mission Street in the morning just doesn't seem feasible either. It doesn't seem fair to our neighbors. We're set up as a junior high, and I really strongly encourage you to look at other options. I think that we have a wonderful program. We've increased our enrollment. We're doing something right. Please allow us to continue to do something right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Dodson.
Sorry, Larry Good, followed by Nancy Menez Casey.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chairperson and board members, Dr. Sarvis, Pat. My daughter is a fourth grader over at the Community Academy at La Cumbre, and I just want to say what a wonderful experience it has been for her to be on a campus like that and to have the opportunities that she has to be in the play West Side Story, which will be performing in May and June. The opportunities of having a playground to play on and really nice classrooms and so on. And I know that it was 2 years ago, almost to this very day, that we sat here and the board said, in 2 years, we'll get you guys back together. We're going to split you up, but we're going to put you back together. Well, we're sort of at that point right now. And I'm really wondering, after listening to Pat Saley's presentation here tonight, are we any closer, really, to making a decision? It certainly doesn't appear that we're going to have any decisions by January. And why that's really important, especially for our school, because we lost 10%, if not more, of our enrollment. And we were a school, maybe one of the only schools that was increasing enrollment 2 years ago. And now we're down 10% because parents simply, they just don't know what to do. They don't have a future. They don't see it. And so we're really hoping that you can provide us with a realistic future of what to expect. Are we going to continue to be split where, for instance, Mike's daughter, one is here and one is over at the other campus? And there's probably 2 or 3 other parents who have kids that are split. That's very difficult. As an ex-board member on the PTA, we're raising and spending $50,000 a year in our PTA, if not more, and it's really difficult to generate a commitment and a community of parents when we're trying to raise money for teachers and for the kids to go to different kinds of events and have teachers' funds. We spend a lot of money for our teachers, and we'd like to continue that. But to not have parents, for instance, the board members all come from parents, from kids who are over at the other campus. We never see the parents from here. And so they're not involved in our part of the process. And that's part of the community that's lost. It's the little intangibles that happen every single day. It's like when teachers in the 3rd grade can't talk to their 4th grade counterparts about core knowledge and how it all works. And I think the last thing I'd like to say, and why we really think it's important to create a cohesive school, is that we would make an absolutely perfect feeder school for La Cumbre. My daughter never even thought about going to La Cumbre, but she wants to go there now. I had never thought of my daughter going to La Cumbre Junior High School. But now I want her to go there because I see the potential there. I see these dedicated teachers who do great work there. Mike Nunn, who's the music teacher, and Gary Smith. My daughter loves Gary Smith and all that he does at the drama department. So let me wrap it up just by saying it's important that you make a decision one way or the other. Make a decision soon so that our parents can make a decision what they want to do. And I'd really like our school to be viable. In the business community, when you're not a viable entity, you're nothing.
I'm going to have to ask you to conclude. That's okay.
Please make a decision soon for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Menez Casey, followed by Marie Henderson.
Good evening, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. First of all, I come to you because I've had a multifaceted relationship with the Academy. First of all, I was an interim principal for 1 year. So that was my first introduction to the Academy, and I have to say that after being a principal at 2 other schools, the Academy still is very warm in my heart. Secondly, I'm a Westmont instructor, and I have continued to use the Academy because it just stands for a school with the characteristics of the Effective Schools Research, and I place students here for that reason, has excellent teachers. And thirdly, most recently, I've become a parent at the Academy. So as I come to you this evening, I'm also very concerned about what's happening with the Academy. We all know that aside from brothers and sisters needing to be together in the grade school experience, teachers need to have that opportunity so that they can begin to interface. And a core knowledge school that stands as high as this core knowledge school and as a model school for the district, they need the opportunity to interface with one another in order to continue the work and the good work that they've been doing. Some of the other key points I wanted to also mention have been mentioned by the gentleman before me, but the other is that the board did make a commitment to this school in its inception 7-8 years ago. And now, 2 years ago, they made another commitment that they would bring the school back together again. So I would also like to urge you, it really isn't important where they're at, but that they do come back together so that they continue their mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Marie Henderson, followed by Julie Woodward.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a parent of 2 students at this school. I've spoken before. We're very happy with the school. I have some of the same feelings that were expressed tonight in that I was very disappointed with this report. It was my understanding, and this board was congratulated on making decision when this master plan was presented. And when I heard what the other girls said, that they were going to move forward. 3.5 months have gone by, and I didn't see anything up here in terms of cost and details. What I saw up here is more hashing out what I would rather see happen, you know. And we can't continue to have this. You're an elected board to make decisions and move ahead. You know, you're charged with finding people to give you the proper information to make those decisions. And we need to make a decision. Our school is a year-round school. It opens in July. We recruit parents in January to come to our school with kindergartners. It's a disappointment to be here because I can see you don't have the proper information to make the decision. LaCoumbre is a good school. I would love for my kid to go on there and them to have core knowledge. The school has a capacity of 900 plus. How much is being used? I talked to people who've read that article in the paper, okay? Is it fair that we are using 3 classrooms for a shop class? You know, when we're here with not even a proper playground for our kids or a cafeteria, yet we've got 3 classrooms that can be dedicated over there to a shop class. I mean, you know, when we couldn't fit on this campus, you came together and, boy, we've got portables, we'll send you down to, you know, Santa Barbara Junior High. Oh, the next year, the portables are going to be used for a different classroom. You know, kindergarten wasn't good down there. We're going to move the whatever grade it was down there. I mean, we need to make it happen. Something has to happen. The school needs to be together, and we have added to LaCoumbre. Where do you think LaCoumbre got those students? We've been feeding into it now. You know, we introduced core knowledge over there. Is the parents going to continue to be happy, and are they going to continue to go to LaCoumbre? You know, it's not going to happen. And I really urge you to make some decisions and move on. You know, everyone in the community was so happy after this last presentation in August of the master plan, with hopes, with deadlines to meet again, and we've gone beyond those deadlines. And then basically I could take out that other PowerPoint from last time, and I don't see much new information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Henderson.
Luther Lewis, followed by, Julie Woodward, followed by Luther Lewis.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak once again. My name is Julie Woodward. I have a 6th grader and a 2nd grader at the Academy, both students there since kindergarten. And Dr. Noel, we did come to the Academy because the district we were in at the time my son was starting school was a PI school, and we weren't willing to put him there. And so if that's, there's one. Yes, Ms. Dodson's right. This is an academically very successful school. We do deserve a great facility that houses us, but I'm looking at the here and now, and yes, it would be great to have our own facility built to our specifics. I have a 2nd grader now, and a 6th grader. I'm looking at something that will happen much more quickly. La Cumbre Junior High is an adequate facility. Are we welcome there? That's a whole nother meeting. I mean, do they want us there? Are their arms open? That's, like I said, that would be we'd be here till daybreak. But it is an adequate facility. Our kids have a playground, have grass. Right now, our children walk 5 blocks one way to Ortega Park for their PE, and then 5 blocks back again, even the kindergartners. And when it rains, our kids either sit in the hallways or eat in their classroom. We have a few tables outside. That's our cafeteria. So at La Cumbre, they have wide open space and a track. They have a cafeteria where you should hear the stuff my son says they eat for lunch. It sounds like a restaurant. It's fantastic, albeit they eat lunch at 11 o'clock so that they're in and out before the junior high kids get there. But it's adequate for us. It would do for now. Someday I would love to see, I guess, my grandkids at Santa Barbara Community Academy in its own shiny facility. I don't think that's going to happen in time for my own children to be there. But for right now, please, could we take action and get us back together again at La Cumbre Junior High? Unless somebody's got a great idea, for something where we could move in tomorrow. I haven't heard that, but I would love to see us back. Please reunite our school. Keep your promise to get us back together. Get all of our kids in one place. I appreciate you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Luther Lewis, followed by Don Hawes.
I think you remember me. I've been here before. I'm Luther Lewis. I live on Mountain Avenue in Santa Barbara, above La Cumbre Junior High. I've been there for 42 years. I am very familiar with the La Cumbre Junior High. And after our last meeting, our West Side Neighborhood group got together and took an overwhelming poll to petition all the residents in the area. So I want to present you with 166 names that have been gathered from Mission Street, Mountain Avenue, Gillespie, and all of Chino Street, all the surrounding streets of La Cumbre Junior High. And it states, we are requesting a formal traffic and safety study to be conducted to determine the impact of the proposed move of the Community Academy to grades K-3 to La Cumbre Junior High School. We request that the study be conducted by a certified traffic engineer, and we are advised that Mr. Clifford and the City of Santa Barbara will be available to assist. As I said before, and I've done my own study, I'm not an engineer, it's totally impossible to get 300 cars going in and out of Portuelo with 25 parking spaces. And I don't know if Mrs. Seeley has looked at parking spaces at La Cumbre Junior High and what the impact would be. Now, if you bus 300 kids, where are you going to put 8 buses? 8 buses. 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 on Port Swallow to pick up all these kids and take them back home. Where's the pickup point? Where's the drop-off point? Now you've got, when you drop off, you've got 300 cars over here trying to wait for the kids to get off the buses. Can you stagger the buses or what? How do you work that? You're taking school that's working right now. You're turning it upside down. You have to
30
do,
seconds.
you have to do so much construction work there to modifications of the bathrooms. You can't have the little kids with the big kids. You gotta put the big kids upstairs and little kids downstairs, because little kids are not gonna be able to go up and down those ramps to classrooms. So you have a total disruption in that school. Keep it the way it is. It's working. Thank you.
Don Hawes, followed by Alice Tarbush.
My name is Don Hawes. I live at 2109 Gillespie Street. I initiated the Upper West Side Neighborhood Watch program some 10 years ago, which represents about 275 homes that surround La Cumbre Junior High. We have a president, 2 assistants, and street captains. Behind us, above La Cumbre Junior High, there is Bel Air Knolls with another 375 homes. We are adamantly opposed to bringing the entire community academy to La Cumbre Junior High for a number of reasons. First, we believe that there will be serious safety and traffic issues by bringing some 300 cars into that environment. We already have major traffic congestion issues, causing some to call for a roundabout at Mission and what's the other street? Modoc Streets? Parents are already dropping students off in the neighborhood, for example, on Gillespie Street to avoid Portezuelo Street. There was recently an accident during school there about 3 weeks ago. And so we don't feel in terms of the traffic conditions that it's appropriate, and in terms of safety conditions that it's appropriate. And there would need to be a traffic signal across Portezuelo and across Modoc Streets, I think. We believe the addition of grades K through 3 from the community academy will compromise the quality of the junior high educational experience. And as so, it will cause further white flight, which the principal is trying now to avoid, and trying to build a good program, quality program. It is intimidating for children grades through K through 3 to come to a junior high environment, and will impact their educational experience. The cost to try and isolate them, if you can do such a thing, will ultimately be borne by the taxpayers and prove costly. Because Santa Barbara is a world that's renowned for its, and highly desirable in terms of coming here, the affordability ratio in Santa Barbara is astronomical. It is 14 to 1. That means the average income in Santa Barbara is per household is $120,000.
30 seconds.
$120,000. That $120,000 buys you a $2 million, and the average home here in Santa Barbara of $1 million, $1.2 million. In the nation, the average is 4.1. So that's $25,000, and in terms of buying a $225,000 home. So people are going to be leaving Santa Barbara. There is just no two ways about it. And the cost of declining enrollment, we feel, will open up an elementary school.
That's time, Mr. Hawes.
Okay, for
Thank
the
you.
community
Thank you.
academy. Thank you.
Alice Tarbush, followed by Michael Lazarevitz.
I'm here again, and I want to wish all of you a very pleasant holiday season and a good break for those of you who have vacations. And hopefully that this issue will be resolved so that we can start the new year in a positive manner. As our year 2006 draws to an end, We should again review the major difficulties to be faced by the proposed study to move the SBCA grades K-3 onto a school designed for secondary students. The site was successfully remodeled to accommodate the Santa Barbara Community Academy upper grades. This change required very careful planning and considerable expense from the elementary district. At present, La Cumbre is seeing a growth in students from the 6 feeder schools and a new climate of behavior and student pride in their junior high. La Cumbre is the one secondary school serving the west side. It's my alma mater, so I can speak passionately. The upper grade academy has been able to share this facility and participate in co-curricular activities such as use of the library, music, and play production. And the rooms are pleasant and separated adequately from the junior high. If the lower grades should come, the total design would need to be altered, and the upper grade academy would also be disrupted. The actual renovating would require a major financial burden for our currently limited elementary funds. Busing, new facilities such as the library, special education rooms, and extended playground and equipment must also be considered. Traffic, space, and flow patterns are further problems to be dealt with. Once again, the declining enrollment in the elementary district is well documented. The time for closure at one or more elementary sites is imminent. It seems prudent to continue the current status until the problem could be solved by moving the entire Santa Barbara Community Academy into a school which would otherwise be closed. This would provide the best advantage to the students and require many fewer difficulties and expenses. This would, this would save the needed secondary school, La Cumbre, for its true purpose.
30 seconds.
Okay. The majority of the teachers at La Cumbre Junior High School, including those of the upper grade academy, concur on postponing any action at this time.
Thanks, Ms. Tarbush. Michael Lazarovitz.
That's close enough. First of all, I wanted to thank those of you that were on the board. I think Dr. Noel is the only one who was on the board when the Academy was created about 10 years ago. Is that correct? Almost a decade ago? 7 years. Okay. But first of all, I wanted to thank you. And it seems that the Academy has been a victim of its own success. If the Academy was not so successful, we probably wouldn't be here having these discussions. I'm a father of a 2nd grader. I'm a father of a 5th grader at the Academy. My 2nd grader was here at 7:25 this morning for choir. My 5th grader was here this evening with the La Cumbre school with our program this evening at 7 o'clock. So it's been a long day for me. But I'm not complaining. I would do it every day to send my kids to the Academy. They have flourished. I am proud of everything the Academy has done. We've talked about budget. We've talked about money. We've talked about property. We've talked about traffic. I want to talk about the kids. And this Academy was developed for low-income kids. This Academy's enrollment has gone up until they started busting at the seams where they couldn't go up anymore and they started going down. Test scores have gone up. The majority, as you probably know, the majority of the Academy student body are low-income kids, although their test scores are up. They're not the highest in the district, but they're among the highest in the district. I just want to say something about La Cumbre. I think Joanne Gaines has done some fantastic, amazing things with that campus. My daughter, who's in 5th grade, I'm on the campus dropping her off and picking her up so I can see the things that are going on there. The intermingling with the programs that were mentioned earlier, I think are benefiting both the Academy and the La Cumbre students. I don't know where the appropriate place for the Academy will be. I think that the Cumbre campus is a wonderful place. I think the Academy can flourish there. I would hope that the Lacoumbra campus can also continue to grow. But as a parent of Lacoumbra, of Santa Barbara Academy children, my emphasis again is on the children. Children are doing some wonderful things through the academy. Core knowledge, to me, is the model that you should be looking at for some of these other schools. Not just the core knowledge, but all the components of the academy, the year-round, the uniform, all these components are creating some amazing results. And I would just like to make my plea to please unite the campus of the Santa Barbara Community Academy as soon as possible. Will it be at the Lacoumbra campus? I don't know. It seems like that is basically your choice. I don't see a whole lot of other choices right now.
That's time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes all of our speakers, and thank you to everyone who stayed so late to provide input. We really appreciate it. Any further board comment, questions? Yes.
From Mrs. Saley. When will this, what's our next step? What happens? I think we heard that. We should be making a decision rather soon. What do we need to do to make a decision?
Madam President, in response to Mrs. Malakoff, as I said earlier, we have a meeting scheduled Monday to talk about where we are with each of the schools, and I think especially in light of what we've heard tonight, we will focus on the Academy Lacoumbra question, and as a matter of fact, that's really what we've been doing. I mean, we've been looking at the other sites, but this has been sort of the toughest nut to crack, because as you recall, we laid out options. This seemed to be the best one. We were told to explore that, and we have been doing that. There are definitely some problems, as I laid out tonight and as you heard tonight. So I think what would be best is maybe if in January we came back and we could focus on that school site and give you an update as to where we are. I mean, completely understand that the parents and the teachers, both schools, want some closure and something definite. We want to make sure we make the right decision, and this is a hard one.
Dr. Noel, you had some questions?
Yes, I did. I'm terribly concerned about the time that passes, and it seems to me that one of the options that is related to Lacoumbra is school closure. And I've been advocating serious look at that for a long time, back into last fiscal year at budget time, as a matter of fact. And it's something, it's sort of like we dance all around it. We're now talking about establishing guidelines for school closure. At the rate we're going, we'll probably, I would be surprised to find guidelines by March, let alone a decision on school closure, which already then puts it into an impossibility to affect, I mean, if it's going to lay off, if it means laying off people, that is a March 15th deadline. And I have trouble seeing at the rate at which we're considering or not considering school closure, I have trouble seeing any action that could affect even next fiscal year. And I could take this, and because it relates to some other financial issues in addition to the space issue, I think that is far too slow a process. It's already been 3 months since we had a workshop, and now we've got the holidays. You're talking about coming back in January. It's just, to me, this is intolerably slow. I think we need to accelerate the consideration of school closure and evolve the guidelines as we consider the content and the substance of that issue. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
When you come back in January, Ms. Saley, will you have some design ideas and some real numbers attached to that, or what sort of an update are you talking about in January?
We will do our best to bring something. Again, we haven't even met as a group to go over these. That's planned for Monday, so it's hard for me to say. I think in terms of the school closure guidelines, I feel like we have a lot of the material, and that doesn't need to wait for March. But we'll bring you as much as we can. It's a balance between being thorough, not wanting to be hasty, but wanting to keep things moving. So it's a complicated situation. We're doing the best we can.
Ms. Cordero?
Well, that was going to be close to my question as well. I'd like to make sure that when you come back in January that we're, it's not just a further update on what the discussion has been, but also that we have some information on which to make, on which to base decisions. And I know that may be putting you in a difficult position because you haven't met yet, but I agree that we need to move forward on this, and we're going to be in a position of having to make difficult decisions, but I think the sooner we make them, the better off we'll be. Better off whether schools or individual schools like the decisions we make or not, the sooner we can give them the final, the final decision, the better off they will be in terms of being able to accommodate whatever, difficulties that they may have or whatever changes they might have to try to accommodate. I also, though, am concerned. I don't want us to drag our feet, but I also don't want us to rush too much into trying to expedite a school closure process, because I think that's a very, very serious discussion to have, a very, very serious decision to make. And I would hate to see us limit in any way public input into that process. So while I definitely want us to be in a position where we can start moving on things, I also want to make sure that we don't shortchange the public in terms of having input into something as fairly final as closing a school. And also, the board needs to, I think, have a fair amount of time to discuss what we think about those, what the criteria should be and how much weight we should give to each of them, and whether it's even going to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Thanks, Ms. Cordero. I do want to point out to the board, though, that we put Ms. Saley and the meetings that she's conducting between a rock and a hard place, because we have one regular meeting in December, and the facilities master plan, the last time it was conducted, really did not check in with the board frequently enough. And so she has a key critical meeting tomorrow that we could not possibly have accommodated with our schedule in December. So unfortunately, it was a lot of retread material, and presumably when you come back in January, we will have at least some rough budgets connected to some of these items. I think that's kind of critical information that people are waiting to hear about, and will certainly provide a lot of direction to the board. And I just wanted to react to Ms. Cordero's discussion of school closure, and in referencing back to the late 70s. To my mind, this is different because we're not talking about selling school sites. I think we all learned that lesson, and we've had it reflected back to us from the community. So when we're talking school closure, we're not talking school sale, property sale.
Well,
I realize it was difficult.
I certainly hope
realize.
that we have learned that lesson. I think the board learned that lesson almost as soon as they committed that error, actually. But that was that discussion also, though, focuses on the communities that it impacts, and whether we, notwithstanding keeping the property, closing the school still impacts the community, and that's another one of my concerns.
Of course it does. Ms. Saley, any closing comments?
No.
Can I just say one more thing? If that's all right? That the school closure, the idea is to save money. I think that we would agree on that. And putting another school of choice into it, to a school that we would close, does not meet that need, doesn't solve the problem. So I didn't want to leave with the community academy thinking that we were trying to close a school so that they could move in, because I'm not sure that's what our goal is.
Dr.
I'm not
Noel?
sure. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not
Okay.
sure. It's for my board.
I would suggest and urge that staff start winnowing down the possible school closure scenarios, because clearly it's not an infinitely large list, and clearly when you start looking at neighborhoods, at distances, at enrollments, it's going to narrow down to some finite set of plausible scenarios. It seems to me that that's kind of foundational information for the board and the public. I know we have at least, Mr. Hettion, do we still have that, what do you call it, the on-pass system?
That would be a Dr. Hayden question. That would be.
Well, but it was
his
down in
ballpark.
your office when I got online with it, or it was down in, you weren't there then, maybe. But
Yes,
it was
we-
not in Dr. Hayden's office.
Yes, we still have that system. It would need to be upgraded to be used.
Yeah, but it and systems like it are powerful systems for examining alternative scenarios for how you draw a line, where the students go, and you can start looking at optimum reconfigurations, and I think that that's a process that we ought to get started now, anticipating discussions at some point next year.
Okay, final comments, Ms. Saley. I don't see any more fingers going to.
I'm fine.
To buttons. Okay, great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And thank you again to the community members who came and stayed with us so late. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 items left on our agenda. It is 10:10. I suggested to Dr. Sarvis that we take item H4 out of order because I know we have community members here who are interested in that item, and then make a decision about how we want to proceed with H2 and H3. Item H4 is the report on San Marcos categorical and supply funding carryover. Is that agreeable to board members?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
And Madam President, I probably will leave after this. It's just getting a little cold.
Jan Zettel, our Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education Services, will introduce this.
Thank you, Dr. Sarvis and Mrs. Harder. At our last board meeting, and for some time before that, there have been questions regarding, number one, carryover that was captured, if you will, at San Marcos High School, concerns from the staff that were raised by administration about supplies being very short at the school because of short budget accounts, perhaps precipitated a year and a half ago by a very, very large over expenditure in instructional materials. And I'm going to let Mr. Wolf walk us through the scenario and bring you up to date today.
This reflects this was in your board packet, and this reflects the 2005-2006 budget at the end of the year for San Marcos. You could see the different programs that are over there on the side. You can see the carryovers that are here in this particular column. The staff had to work, starting in February, the staff was working with the San Marcos administration to eliminate their deficit spending in their instructional material fund of $105,000. Together with the assistant superintendent secondary district, we were able to eliminate that and move some site funds into that funding area. At the end of the year, when we took money for the 3% reserve. The items in yellow up here on the column, the $52,000 and the $16,000 were designated, excuse me, at that time, to cover the cost or to cover the 3% reserve for the district. That money has currently now been returned to the district or to the school site. For the 2006-2007 school year, this is the total budget of the programs that you just saw for the school site. You'll see the total budget that includes all of the object codes from the personnel that they've designated to their instructional materials and other services, you see the expenditures to date and the encumbrances to date that are in there, and you see their balances. If you notice the donations account, they're $61,000 short in that particular account. The superintendent asked me to focus on just the 4,000 materials accounts, the 5,000 consultant accounts, and the 6,000 capital expense accounts. These last two documents were available at the back, and we're waiting for you at your board at your desk this evening. This looks at the same accounts that you just looked at. It only looks at the budget's codes 4,000, which is books and supplies. It looks at the 5,000s, which are other operating expenditures for consultants or field trips or trips for the staff to go to professional development. And it looks at 6,000 accounts, which are the capital facilities purchases of items over $5,000. So in the case where you see a double star after the title or description, like Title V, that's exactly the same numbers that are on the last document. So there are no personnel costs associated with those particular programs. That lottery, the restricted lottery, the CalSafe program, the disseminator grant, are all have no personnel cost in them whatsoever. The other programs have personnel cost, and so these are the site discretionary funds that are available to them to use for whatever they want to within accordance with the program requirements for this year, for the remainder of the year. As you can see, looking at the middle slide that I showed you, on this particular side, we're about halfway through the year, and they have about half of their money left.
What does it mean?
Questions, yes.
Sorry, what does it mean with the donations?
Donations are local donations given to the school site for particular purposes, for their purposes.
Why is it in the red?
It's in the red because the donations haven't equaled the amount of money that they've spent. And so those costs are being covered by the district's general fund.
What would they spend the money on that they were expecting donations for?
I would have to look at the detail of that. I couldn't explain that to you. Obviously, in this middle slide, there was a $61,000 deficit. Those have all been personnel costs for whatever reason.
Clarification, when you say donation, do you mean money that's been shifted from, I mean, how?
I mean money that's been given to the school site that you approve here on a regular basis as the first part of your board meeting. They're donations from outside sources, from parent groups, from band boosters, from athletic people that come into our fund that we watch over, as opposed to the funds that go into the ASB accounts.
I'm truly mystified. How does it become a deficit then? That's what I'm not understanding.
Well, things are being charged to the account number yeah, basically the school site sets things up. They charge things to account numbers that exist because they expected monies to come in there. The monies haven't come in there. The district then has to cover it, or my staff has to work with the site administration to figure out where to move those expenditures where they have money.
Well, that was going to be my question. Why would the district cover it instead of having the school take it out of an account in which they still have a balance?
Well, that's why we work with the site administration to find out what accounts they want to take the money out of.
Okay.
Oftentimes, the accounts that they have in categorical funds cannot be used for those expenditures. And so that's why it becomes problematic.
Well, I have a question kind of along the lines of Mrs. Harder's question, which is, I understand how we get a negative balance because they've charged expenditures to an account that doesn't have sufficient funds. But who approves charging the expenditures to those accounts? What's the oversight to make sure that they're only charging accounts that actually have a balance?
The oversight for the high school district is one person who's trying to do everything, and myself who's trying to do everything. And so we don't necessarily see everything. When the payroll comes in, payroll puts it into the account that's there because once a person's worked, we're required to pay that individual. And so in the case of payroll costs, those payroll costs are paid. We look and see a negative balance. We then communicate with the site, set up a meeting, and say, okay, where do you really want to charge this because you don't have any money in this particular account. But in the meantime, that cash account is actually being covered by the district cost until we get it moved to one of the accounts that the site has that they can afford to pay that individual from.
Right, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call your work ethic into question.
Oh, no, I wasn't taking it that way.
I meant who at the site oversees this?
We move to a site-based budgeting. That site responsibility is the site administrator.
And I'm sorry, is proper training taking place not only for administrators but also for business managers on school campuses? I mean, it sounds like maybe we need to go through that.
We meet with all of the school site personnel at the start of the school year. We're not involved in the hiring process of the school site personnel for either their ASB bookkeepers. That's the responsibility, and that's done at the site level. As those people need help or as they're due to the system, we devote a considerable amount of time, if they want it, to assist them in making sure that they understand the system and understand how things operate. We meet with them on a regular basis, or we try to set up meetings and meet with them on a regular basis, and we're available by phone at any time. So yeah, we do that. Do we have a preset type of training that we go through? No, not really. We basically look to see for them to tell us what kind of assistance they need, and then we try to tailor that to their needs.
Thanks, Mr. Wolf. I think Dr. Noel was.
Yeah, I had a quickie. This is that column with the red is as of today.
That's correct, sir.
So they still have 5 months to try to pull that out, right?
That's correct, sir.
So this is not. I mean, this is just a snapshot. They may. I mean, if their fundraising works, they might.
That's correct.
Eliminate that deficit in a relatively.
And that's correct. And what we do is we bring that to their attention so that they understand that they're either going to have to go out and do fundraising or get donations to cover their costs, or they're going to have to determine where they're going to shift their costs within their site funds and maybe cut back on something that they had planned for those monies.
The phrase a little while, you said something about, well, it comes out of the general fund, but that's not until the end of the year?
Well, right now, if I had pots of money, there isn't a pot of money there, but I've made that expense. That expense is being covered as sort of a no-interest loan out of those funds, yes, until such time as they come up.
By the end of the year, there's an opportunity to balance that out.
Yes, sir. That's what happens.
Or even end up with a positive balance.
That's also correct.
Okay.
All of those are possibilities, yes.
Do we at the end of the year get a report on all the schools and how this looks?
Yes, we do.
Might
It's
be a
called the
nice thing to
year-end
break
balance
out.
unaudited
Pardon me?
actuals. Year-end balance unaudited actuals.
Okay.
I have several questions, actually. First of all, when you're talking about the difference between your page 1 and your page 2 here, and you're saying that some of the categories have personnel costs associated with them, do you mean district personnel costs, so that you're
Site personnel costs.
Site personnel costs that you just deduct automatically from the
Well,
main amount?
here's what I wanted to be clear about. If there was an amount budgeted and there's still a balance, if it's really encumbered because we have someone hired and they're going to work for the rest of the year, I didn't want to include that.
Right.
So in our conversation, we just agreed to eliminate all the 1,000s for classified, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000s for classified, certificated and health and welfare benefits. So those are just not shown on this table.
Okay.
And just to let you know, what happens is that we give, or the secondary assistant superintendent provides an allocation to the school site of $100,000. It's up to the school site to tell us how they want to budget the money.
Okay.
And so we put it into their budget categories, and then we try to chase them to make sure that they either spend it in those categories or adjust their budgets to match where they're spending their money.
All right, well, another question I have is really to step back and take a look at the larger picture, which was that at San Marcos, they had carry forward, and they expected their carry forward to be there when this school year started, and were surprised to find that the district had pulled back some of their categories to cover the 3% minimum reserve. And as I understand it, this didn't just happen at San Marcos. It happened at, as I understand it, any school site that had money, you were dividing it among the school sites, essentially.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So all the principals were surprised at the beginning of the school year.
That's
that had
correct.
Carry forward. And they had plans in place, maybe their site councils had already met, and so they were, San Marcos had their PTSA president come and stand up and speak about it, but this was actually happening at many, many of our sites.
And that's
Is that
correct, and all of those monies have been restored to those school sites.
Those monies have been restored now, but there was no guarantee that that was going to be coming back. It's fortunate that it was able to come back, but there was no guarantee.
That's correct.
So I get the sense from the sites that I visited over the past few months in talking about this process, and also I've served on the site council at Adams School, and this certainly happened at Adams as well. Principals are kind of left hanging. They actually don't know exactly how much money they have. They thought that they did, and then it disappeared. And I understand that that's a factor of the state in many ways. You don't know, or your financial year has gone by, and you don't know what you're going to need to cover at the last moment. But I'm really wondering if there's some sort of better process, and maybe Mr. Diaz can speak to this. Is there a better process where there's not quite so much guesstimating going on that this district could look into?
Yeah, there's an immediate need to hire what I call a program accountant to handle this category programs. This is a critical, urgent need that the district has. You've got Bob and you've got Patty, and that's it. And to get the level of detail and information to the sites that the sites and the board and the administrators need, you don't have enough people right now. It's just that simple. And we need, Assistant Superintendent Zattel made this suggestion a couple of weeks ago, and I was flabbergasted and so impressed by it, because you just don't see so that recommendation coming from somebody besides me. And I how can we make this happen? We need to get this done. We need that person to track the programs and some of the charter activity as well. It's just, there's just not enough manpower.
The other tracking piece that I would like to see in this person that would work with our categorical budgets is position control. We have got to get our position control clear, processes mesh between our personnel and our business department, and especially in categorical, they need to be charged there when they should be charged there and not out of general funds. So we're going to look to see how we can make this work. We really need the personnel.
That person will be underwater the day they walk in. Just the position control programs, charter, it's humongous.
Great, that's a great job advertisement. Come to work with us.
Just to further expand on your question, Ms. Parker, we tried, when I got here, there was no process essentially for establishing the budget. We tried to establish that this year. Teaching old dogs new tricks is a very difficult process, and so although we gave them allocations and said, this is it for your budget for the first part of the year, those principals sort of worked around the system and talked to people and found out what their carryovers were at the time before we closed the books. Mm-hmm. And so they planned for those carryovers. Unfortunately, my staff gave out numbers that we shouldn't have given out at the time, and we're going to be, obviously this is going to be the second year of the same process, and so hopefully there's a learning curve that everybody's done that. I don't like to take money away from people, but when it's midnight on the last day, we got to do something.
Yeah, but it's so difficult because they have to get their programs in place before school starts.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
Ms. Cordero.
I had a question regarding Dr. Noel was asking about the 13,000. If that might be covered by the end of the year, and you said yes. And I was wondering, going back to last year, when the district had to put in 75,000 to cover the over expenditure at San Marcos, and then was that ever recovered from the school site?
No.
So the 68,000 or almost 69,000 that we took for the reserve this year, really didn't even, and then we returned, but had we kept it, it really didn't even cover the amount that we expended last year
That's
to cover
correct.
their over expenditure.
That's correct. It's I mean, that's sort of a simplification of it, because the money that was used for the central service resources were used for that particular purpose, and we could have used other monies for that, but we can't replace those monies with those particular monies because of the restricted nature of the programs. So it's money that we had for that program and for that purpose that was sort of in a reserve account at the central level for essentially cost overruns, and we were able to do that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you know if there are any, have you been in discussions with the site administrators to try to ensure that the over expenditures don't continue?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, there is. There's a very clear message that you should expend all of the funds that your students deserve during the year. You should watch that budget very carefully, and by the end of the year, you should not have cost overruns, nor should you have money left over.
Well, that was going to be another question of mine. Is these are all funds that schools receive for their current students, so they're not necessarily funds that are intended to be carried over for next year's students or the year after that students. These are really
You're
funds
right
that
on
are
target. These are not funds that you bank for something else or for
Okay.
another group of students. You spend them for the needs you have this year.
But there is, for the district, for example, a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty, and I can see why site principals, when they don't know what the district's going to hit them with next year, especially in cases like this where maybe some money's going to be pulled back to cover the district's 3% reserve, I can understand why principals would like to keep a small cushion so that they can make sure that their programs roll
A
over.
small cushion would be just fine.
Yeah.
3% would be just great.
Although
We-
keeping the small cushion is by and large not necessarily the best way to do it. If a principal has a multi-year plan, they can specify that they have a multi-year plan, and then it's okay to have the carryover.
And does that happen? Do principals come to the assistant superintendents with multi-year plans?
Well,
Do you give them?
They show you
can?
the plans in the plan for student achievement for, so in their site.
But you can
Most
you can
of
carry
these
some
are categorical.
And in defense of the school sites, in some cases, the state doesn't give the money until May or June, and so it's sort of difficult to spend the money because you have a physical director that won't allow them to spend it unless I've got it, so.
I just have one final question, Mr. Wolf, and then we have one public comment. Was this money, in addition to the SIP funding that went to San Marcos, out of our unrestricted general fund, or is this part of that money?
The unrestricted SIP money is at SBC District Unrestricted at the top. Okay, that was $52,058, I think. The money that was separated out from the SIP money from the school sites is down here at $73.95, down on the bottom. And I think the total amount to San Marcos was about $102,000.
Public comment.
Susie Coffin.
I'm actually, Susie Cawthon, San Marcos High School. I'm actually pleased to have been confused because I think we had some great discussion tonight, and I'm certainly learning a lot more about how the district between site budgetary process works. And thank you, Mr. Diaz and Mr. Wolf, for digging out some information that really helps us in our budget process. First of all, I just want to assure you that San Marcos is a very generous community, and there would never be a red donations item. And I think I might be able to shed a little bit of light on that because as we collect, first of all, San Marcos had a less than energetic employee in our business office who retired and didn't train and didn't stay in the summer in June. And we walked in and found boxes of checks and donations and things, all kinds of places. We have a wonderful business officer now, but who she's had to learn by after school had started the first week by going to Santa Barbara High School and some others and just teach me the job. So I do think, Ms. Harder, I totally agree. We need as a district to have a better training off going. And of course, a new accountant would be fabulous because it comes to people that don't have time to be doing this research. I, however, have time to be doing this research and said I would be very happy to help out. Just an example of what might happen in terms of the donations, if we have a coach that we've hired and our athletic boosters hasn't met yet to give out the stipend money to each sport, or in my case, I actually, the fundraising chair for the girls basketball, we're fundraising, we're going to help with stipends. That money is coming in, but it hasn't been moved from one account to the next. So I think that's what you're seeing there. That would just be what I would just project, that's probably what it is. But I know that our community would not ever leave the district hanging on a donation item. Secondly, as I've asked for these details to get the picture, I still am a tiny bit unclear, and I apologize for that. But my understanding from reading what Mr. Wolf looked at was that actually the funds that were moved over was an extra 60 or 80,000, and the unrestricted came back. And I think what I saw then tonight, and what perplexed me was this wasn't mentioned 2 weeks ago or a week ago or whatever, but suddenly there was an old debt and we paid it with this money, which is perfectly legitimate and fine. But if we had known this, or if I'd known this a long time ago, when I first started looking, that would have made a good decision. I did have
30 seconds.
Our site administrator research what the 100,000 was and what happened, and it was apparently a textbooks that he had to purchase. Should have probably known that. I don't know what the whole process was 2 years ago, but at least the money went for a very good cause. You will be happy about that. And I believe that subsequently some of the carryover won't be there, and our parent community will step up and do some more help at our site. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is it the will of the board to defer H2 and H3, which are complementary items, to a January agenda? And there will be plenty of January meetings.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Coming events, I think we've previewed them, and tomorrow night there is a concert to attend, San Marcos at San Roque Church. Board comments? Future agenda items.
Given Dr. Noel's announcement about the charter high school, would you like me to put that on the agenda for?
In fact, I was going to ask you to do that, but I'd love to have a chance to get the idea out and discussed, because I've talked to one board member, is all I can talk to.
That would be the advantage of having it on an agenda right away.
Then we can go back to the drawing boards and, make all kinds, try and make adjustments.
So would you like it on the January 9th agenda then?
I'd love that. Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes, clarify for me, Dr. Noel, is this more or less a white paper that you'd be presenting, or would it be the actual petition?
No, it wouldn't be the petition.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to have that kind of a go around before
Okay.
finalizing a petition.
Okay.
I'd like to be able to incorporate.
Okay, thank you.
Suggestions.
But could we see the actual proposal?
Which one?
The one that was sent into the state in July?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Although the document I sent you is basically it, but a lot fleshier. Proposal was really specific.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. So a large future agenda item.
And I'll send you everything I got.
Why don't you disseminate it to the superintendent?
Yeah, I'd like to.
For him to
I wanna
distribute
make sure
it.
I do it properly.
Great.
I have a copy.
Okay,
Well, you don't have the actual proposal, and I think that's what Mrs. Cordero would like to see. I'd be happy to supply that.
Well, I asked the state for it, so I did
Oh,
get
you
a
did?
copy.
okay,
I've got it.
okay.
Okay.
Then we will meet again on January 9th. I hope staff, teachers, students, maybe not parents, have a good respite, and we will be back again in the new year. This meeting is adjourned.